Hello, folks. Welcome to our early writer's block. I know for some of you, it's for West Coasters, it's 10 a.m., I believe. It is noon-ish for me. It's 1 for Omni. And it is evening for our guests, Faye Earth, Neil from Faye Earth, and Kat, the lore mistress. Neil, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do, man. Right on, man. Kat, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Yeah. I think a lot of us are working retail. The most important thing, obviously. Omni, of course, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself again, then. Can they not? Oh, let's check my audio real quick. Or Omni, just read. All right, great. That's exactly what I wanted. Oh man, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just do it again, right? God, I'm gonna put a hole in my head. Hold, hold on just a second. Audio is not coming in at all for some reason. I thought I saw something messed up. God damn. No, it's totally my end. Oh, Lord. What's going on now? Sorry, folks. I wish things worked perfectly on their first try. Okay.
This is why I'm terrified of doing any sort of live streams or anything like that.
It's
People
not as bad.
people that watch the stream are used to my blunders, so they kind of come to accept it.
It's
Um,
honestly kind of expected when you're doing a live stream like this. There will be technical difficulties. The first 5 minutes are almost always tuning things up and making sure you're good to go. Everyone's accepting it.
Oh, I think they
So,
can hear us.
fixed.
we got it.
Can they
Okay,
Woo!
hear
great.
all of us?
Uh,
All of us?
yes, I'm seeing green lights. Sorry about
Can
that.
you hear me?
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm seeing everything light up. So,
From the top.
God. Oh, I'm about to use the
Can we have
first
a
F
practice
word, the
run?
first and only F word of the show. I'm so sorry, folks. Could
Yeah,
you,
right.
You're good, Chief.
Neil? I like to hear about you so much. I want you to introduce yourself again.
So- Hi, everybody. I'm Neil. I am the creator and designer of Fey Earth, an indie TTRPG set in an alternate 19th century Earth, where every single creature from folklore and fairy tale is real, have always been real, and lived alongside humans. I suppose one way in which it's different to other folklore, or sorry, other games is the it's heavily based on research of the creatures. So you'll see creatures like kobolds and elves and goblin, and they will seem completely different to what you're used to because those names have been taken and just used ad hoc without any attempt to depict the creatures from the cultures they came from. So that's the big thing. And we're hoping next year to launch a Kickstarter, COVID messing everything up. Hopefully not shipping and other nightmares, but please God we'll get there. When I'm not doing that, I am a secondary school maths and science teacher, teaching teenagers hard sums. And when I'm not doing that, I teach people fencing. with long swords and other such fun things.
Yeah, thank you for reintroducing yourself again. I'm very sorry about that.
So,
Kat, would you like to introduce yourself again?
Me again? I'm Kat, but probably most people know me as the Law Mistress on Twitter, if you know me at all. I run a blog where I take lots of like folklore and mythology. So like Neil, big folklore nerd, and try and find ways of implementing it into your games, TTRPGs. Mostly D&D I use because that's what I love to play. But yeah, that's my blog, and I'm also a writer. So I'm working on some exciting stuff. I'm working on Vinestra with Giles. Highly recommend looking that up. It's going to be a lot of fun, and they're hoping to launch their Kickstarter 2022. And other than that, I work retail. I move boxes, and I try and fit everything else around it.
you are an essential worker.
You
I'm an
are.
essential worker.
You are an essential worker.
Absolutely essential.
That is a title that will fade away in the next
That is a
decade.
title that I
It already has
I
in
would
some
gladly
parts
get
of the
rid of if
South.
I could.
Yeah.
But I am very excited to see you guys' projects and stuff like it's so exciting to hear about everybody doing Kickstarters next year. I'm glad that's like a very common but very cool. I wish I had more money to like to support you guys'
Yeah.
project. I'll definitely toss some money your way. That goes without saying, but I'm poor, so I'll do my best. But I am very happy to hear about all these Kickstarter projects and stuff like that. It's so inspiring to see everybody like lift themselves up off the ground and push their the things that they've fantasized about in a literal and metaphorical sense forward and show us all that work. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to do the same thing, but I'm not even counting on next year, to be quite honest. But
Big mood, buddy. Big mood.
we have another person here who's working on their own project by themselves. Omni, would you like to introduce yourself?
Segue there.
Yeah.
Speaking of being poor and being an essential worker, hey everybody! I am the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American. You've probably seen me all over the place. I'm the guy who's been working on his tabletop role-playing space opera setting for 15 years solo because hiring people is expensive, but using your own money just costs you sanity, and I had plenty to start with, and I don't have much left. But I do have a world almost ready to go, just grinding along. I've also been on DMDM Studios channel as the eponymous Ashwell Brant, a rogue in his COVID Syndicate campaign, as well as also Nash Brannon on our friend here's Bebop and the Big Easy Call of Cthulhu campaign on said channel. And obviously, I'm co-host here on the Writer's Block and on Chip Off the Block on every Wednesday. So, yeah, I've been pretty busy.
Yeah, we had a 4-hour stream yesterday. Oh.
We did, as we also have been working on our Caltrop core submission of turning this game setting into a playable role-playing game with the really cool Titanomachy RPG designed Caltrop core using D4s. It's been quite an experience. So
something tells me you've been making rolls to make sure that everything checks out.
Yes, I may or may not have been crunching dice numbers this morning to go, okay, how stable is the system? Alarmingly stable, by the way.
Stable
also,
enough.
I need to get my dice reweighted because I've been rolling more ones than I've ever seen in my life, even on D4s.
Maybe just bad luck.
Either way, I'm quite happy to say we will definitely be using the malfunction rules when we rerun this game if my dice rolls are anything to be recognized. So,
very excited for that, man.
Me too. I'm super ready. So that's me. What about you, man?
I'll do a little introduction. Hi, I'm at VA Redemption. I'm a sort of a voice actor. I do writing. I mostly am just running this stream, and hopefully in the next year I'll have more streams to come because I am planning on, drumroll please, going full time with streaming. So hopefully I'll be able to have more shows, more guests on. But honestly, I don't know if I want more guests on. I think having 2 a week is really nice because it sort of gives them this nice little pedestal and spotlight. And So far, having two guests on has been amazing. We all every single one of the guests we've had have been just absolutely wonderful to work with, and I am absolutely positive that Neil and Kat will be no less wonderful. So, but yeah, there I go introducing my guest instead of me. Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter like all the time. I'm always shit posting most of my, I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest, hot takes, stuff like that. I do have coffee, so if you scroll down on the Twitch page, there's a link to my coffee. It's the golden version of my face. If you like the show, please consider donating, because I promise I don't pocket any of the money. It goes right back into production. So I appreciate you guys very much, your patronage, and even if you're just a lurker, I appreciate you, because the viewership is just, that's all I can ever ask of anybody. So with that aside, we are starting episode 4. I can't believe we are 4 episodes in already.
Right? Oh my god.
I had to double triple check. I was like, we've really had 4 guests already? Okay.
It feels like we have been simultaneously doing this forever and doing it for only a day. It's nuts.
That's when you know you like it.
You
It
know,
feels like
a
forever, but
month has gone by since you started.
Yeah.
And that's like
December
years.
9th. December 9th. I was just like, what? It feels like it's been years. Oh, thank you for hosting on me. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. of
Oh,
course.
also, Artemis, I saw you in the chat. I saw your follow. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. So this is part 1 of the show. We're in the first hour, and we're gonna have to compensate because I'm an idiot and wasted the first 10 minutes. We're gonna be doing our. I haven't come up with a cool name for this yet, but we're gonna be doing our mystery words. I feel like I can come up with something a lot cooler than that. I came up with writer's block. I came up with chip off the block, and I'm calling this mystery words. So
Wordsmithing.
I like wordsmithing. Okay, you know what? Changing it now.
Comes up with something in less than a second.
This is why I have guests on. They make me look. I was gonna say they make me look smarter, but they don't. You're welcome. I forgot to follow last time I was here. No, it's totally cool. I feel bad because I love Derek. I love DMDM Studios, and found out I wasn't like following him for like the first 2 or 3 weeks that I was watching his streams. I was just like, oops. I dropped him a sub to make up for it, though. You folks should consider dropping him a sub. He's a lot of fun to be around. He's also going to be on tonight. But anyway, that'll be really early in the morning for my UK folks and my GMT folks, period. So, episode 4, this is the wordsmithing segment. I completely made that up by myself. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate you, man.
You really workshop that title. You did.
Oh, a workshop in
That
2
was
seconds?
Hours and hours of consults and
No.
looking through little documents and legalese.
Cuts to a little
You
thing
really-
of Neil going through a library, just like very meticulously. But so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go around in a circle. Each of us have 3 words. Well, some of us have 3 words. Some of us have more than 3 words. Some of us don't have any
Some
at
of
all.
us have like 50. Don't mock me.
Nothing wrong with it.
There's
Honestly,
probability. There's a probability that we could have come up with the same words, and I need to be prepared. Okay.
I'm not a mathematician. Okay. I'll leave the math stuff to Neil. Neil, don't you me?
Math be complicated. Let's be real. That is math.
Okay.
Um,
Neil, what's your first word, man?
my first word is starlight.
Starlight. God, I love that. I know Omni loves that.
mhm. No, that didn't tickle my sci-fi bone at all. I'm quite happy.
All right, Kat. Pick one of your words.
Stories.
What's that?
Stories.
Stories?
Stories?
Yes.
Stories.
Stories.
Okay. I'm not mocking you. I'm just teasing. I promise. Hey, and
We call it ribbing here.
ribbing.
Yeah, like, like in the ribs.
Yeah, maybe in your part of the states, buddy. In the Midwest, we.
I mean, yeah, sorry. I forgot that I'm from down south, and everybody down here is a little bit weird.
You up in them
So-
city boys, you do things a little differently.
Yeah, I am Orlando. We're less south and more like everywhere weird at once.
I'm
really,
from
let's be real.
I'm from St. Louis, hence why I don't have like a particular Southern accent. I just sound like an asshole. So, oh, dude, American cities full of assholes. Just gonna be completely honest. I'm from one, so I can say that.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm Orlando. We're
oh yeah,
yeah,
you Orlando's shit.
no, it is 100%. Actually, that's not a. There's no debate there. I personally wish I didn't live here. Anyway,
Right.
self-loathing of our location aside,
What's your word, brother?
all right, I'm gonna go with D4 to decide which one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're gonna start with ARC.
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 Oh, just
as
like
in-
Noah's Ark,
Yeah, like
or
the
an
arc of
electrical arc.
history. Yeah, the arc of history is what I'm thinking of,
Ah,
or like just like an arc, as in like the parabola. So
that's a big word.
I could have used parabola, but I decided not to.
Ah, yes, parabola. Let's
Yes.
see here. I should not make references to another disease while we were in the middle of one.
Artemis here, the surprise twist is actually a math show and not a word show. Damn, you found out a secret.
Wow, I'd be the worst host if it was a math show.
We're going to start quadratic equations now in the next 2 minutes, you know?
Oh no, you're
Please.
sending me back to engineering school. Please don't. Please don't.
Please stop.
On that topic, my word is erase. So,
Perfect. It's the word we need right now.
Neil, what's your second word?
Dreamscape.
Dreamscape. You are coming up with some like very like I'm trying to whimsical words. That's the vibe I'm getting. Starlight and
That's
Dreamscape. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's pleasant. Cat, give us something
Yes.
dark and horrible to like contrast that.
Wildlife?
Yeah, that's dark and horrible. I like wildlife. We actually we keep like Ami and I are just like, yeah, we keep trying to like talk about animals and then we just like skip it or forget about it. So
Usually it becomes less about what's out there and more about what's not out there, and then we inevitably turn back to human mutations, and then we just stop talking about animals entirely and forget about it. 'cause
I want some big mutated animals. I'm gonna keep it real. That's one thing I want in this setting. But
the Fallout nuked moose, yes please.
heck yeah, or the Yao Guai from Fallout with the big hairless bears.
Oh God.
Your
Well,
second
that
word.
actually segues pretty well into my next word, which is toxic.
Toxic.
So, what can I say? I randomly heard a Britney Spears song in the background when I was walking early this morning. And
Amazing.
that actually works pretty well today. So,
I'm gonna do a controversial word for my folks in the European hemisphere. How would you like me to spell the word color?
With a U, of course.
With a U, please.
I thought
Yeah.
so. Just this once, never again. It's suggesting that I change my look.
Names, I'm used to it.
It's
I'm
suggesting.
Because you're spelling this wrong for your locale.
No, it's saying that I should change my locale to
You
British
should change
English.
your locale. Yeah, you should do.
All right, just for
Yeah.
this, just for this.
Oh,
You people
boy.
with your U's in color.
And the E's in demons, except honestly,
That spelling
I
looks cooler
understand
though.
it.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, Neil.
Well, you were saying you wanted something less fluffy, so I had a word, but I've decided on a different word. So my third word is going to be void.
Oh, okay.
gosh.
That's exactly what I requested.
Completely opposite direction.
Yeah.
Do you put like an E at the end of void?
No.
Voidy.
I'm just teasing. Okay, no, okay. So I'm curious about this. Kat. So do you say aluminium?
No.
Aluminium.
Neil, do you say
What?
aluminium? Do you say aluminum?
Oh, we say aluminium. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Aluminium foil.
Yeah.
We call it aluminum.
I know.
Yeah.
You said
do
that sense.
occasionally-
You said
I
that
do
sense
occasionally
like
use aluminium when I'm referring to the actual material by itself. When I'm referring to it as a modifier on an object like aluminum foil, I say aluminum foil, but I do say aluminium for the actual element because a lot of my
I wasn't gonna bring this up.
professors were British. So
Is aluminum foil the stuff you use in the kitchen when you're cooking?
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
Aluminium
okay.
foil is, yeah.
We
Yeah.
call that tinfoil.
We call it tinfoil.
yeah, we
here
call
in
it
the
tinfoil
Midwest.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
To be fair, we say tinfoil.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how much
Oh,
of it's
okay.
actually aluminum and how much of it is tin anymore, or if
Very
it's,
little.
if it's metallic at all
What?
anymore, or just shiny
It'll-
paper.
It'll probably give you cancer in like a couple of years, knowing the way
Yeah.
things
Oh,
are.
God.
Is it even metal now?
Is it even metal anymore?
There's no tin in it. Tin is really expensive. It's
Yeah.
got tin in the last 10 years has gone crazy expensive, and yeah, so there's none in that.
Same thing with
I
copper.
believe it.
That's why our pennies are like not copper.
Zircon and zinc,
Yep.
mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we have pennies? Anyway, Kat, what's your final word?
My last word was one of my words was spirits.
Spirits.
Nice.
We actually have an interesting tie to that, but I would like to, as we do, just completely take that word and run in a different direction with it.
Ooh.
So let's see, 3. I'm
We
bad
shall
at counting.
see where our little four-person zeitgeist takes us with that word.
Your last word, Omni.
Clandestine.
Clandestine.
There's my $3 word for the day.
Did I spell that correctly? I did, somehow. Okay.
Yes, autocorrect agrees with you, therefore it must be right.
Whoever Anonymous Capybara is, just know you're my favorite animal. Wait, who is Anonymous Capybara?
It actually changes person to person, so like you don't see the same names, sadly.
That's
Everyone
rough.
has different ones here. I see only Anonymous Buffalo. So
So, my
Tell me
words...
who-
I'm sorry, go on.
I was wondering if it would tell me, but I've got anonymous Capra as well.
yeah.
Dang. Is that... So that might have to be Neil, then.
I maybe I don't know.
So my words have been like weirdly art themed. I have a race and color, so I feel like I should come up with one more art word. How about oil?
I like that.
So that should be 3, and 3. Excellent. Okay, so from here, we're going to pick 2 words apiece. Now that we're picking, like we're just sort of rounding it down. We don't have to get to every single one of the words, because our first episode with guests, we got to 4. So
Yeah, that was fun.
yeah. Last episode, I think we got to a little bit more than 4.
I think we
Yeah.
actually got through 2 for each.
Yeah, it was I think 6 words maybe. I'm not sure. It was
Yeah.
it was definitely more than 4 though.
Yeah.
We got through a decent amount last
I
episode.
feel like in the last episode you tied quite a lot of words together.
That does happen a
Then
lot. where
that's
we talk
fine.
one word and we segue another word into. We're like, yeah, that's totally that word right there. So we don't have to worry about it later.
Completed 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Albine says, "Happy almost New Year, Red, Omni, Cat, and Neil." Thank you. Happy New Year to you
Thank
too.
you.
Just a day away. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my God! Don't remind me.
I can't wait till I start the next year and say to Omni, I feel like it's been a year since I saw you.
I knew that pun was coming from somewhere this year. Next year. Sorry,
Neil. So what we can do is if you have 2 words that you want to pick, don't be afraid to pick your own words. Especially if you have a train of thought running forward already. But go ahead and pick 2 words from there that you would like to at least see or refer to.
I thought we were going in order. Sorry.
We don't have to. It's fine.
I really like Starlight, so I will go for Starlight.
Starlight.
And spirits.
Starlight and spirits. Starlight Spirit sounds like a Studio Ghibli movie.
See, there we go. We can just make that a thing, and now
or
there's 2
a really cool '90s band. Either one.
It's not Tiny Secret Locomotive, but it's
okay. It's official. We got to get that on a T-shirt. Everybody knows about it. Like,
yeah, I guess I'll get drawing that.
Get on
I'm
it.
done with everything else.
That's your job.
My tablet pen. Go to it, Art Mule.
My art servant.
I suppose my 2 words I'm going to pick is stories and arc.
Well, that makes that nice and easy for that underlining.
Yeah, I don't even need to move anything. I just need stories and arc. Obviously the first idea is biblical stuff, but yeah. Omni, do you have 2?
Go with wildlife and oil. I like those.
Ah, yes. Omni, my favorite fan of the Industrial Revolution. Let's see.
What it would represent, what it could have been, not what it was. Just clarifying for the crowd.
So I feel like I should, you know, I'm tempted to do like edgy words, but at the same time, I really like Dreamscape.
Go with it, man.
Oh, okay. So one of my words will be dreamscape, but my other word will be void.
Oh.
A dreamscape void.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ah,
interesting.
that sounds
With
like a.
starlight spirits living in it. Man, this was so easy.
Episode done. We're all
Yeah.
going home.
Okay, thanks for showing
Good
up, guys. I
night.
appreciate you. Good afternoon. All right, so we will come back to these words. Don't worry, they are not going to be forgotten. They'll just go in our pile of things to do on Wednesday shows. Where the hell would I put those? I'll just leave them there. Never mind. Brevity's sake.
Our bits box of future options.
It's our toolbox of things to come back to when we run out of content. We will not run out of content. This is the fun part. Whoever wants to go first, whoever finds a word, or maybe even a couple of words, whatever comes to your mind, just spit it out. This is the improv section.
I also am. So I was thinking about this. I also am offering if no one wants to muscle the way to the front, I am willing to roll off for everyone here.
But we could roll
Just
off,
so
sure, yeah.
everyone-
We got a D4
So-
for it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
I got
flip a
mine,
coin. We'll have Neil and Kat go first. I'll put them on the spot.
There we go.
Who wants to be heads? Who wants to be tails?
Kat, do you want to be evens or odds?
I'll be evens.
Okay.
Right. You're evens. Congratulations. Evens is
great,
up.
So me then. Okay, well, I guess with spirits, when I thought of that word, I was thinking because in the last episode, you kind of were talking about this like this hive mind, and I got to thinking about if there were people that could kind of hear it and didn't really know what it was. There was this really very sweet, very tragic story about someone who went to the stars to find their lost love because they could hear their voice.
That still gives me
So I
goosebumps.
kind of thought maybe that they would explain it away with some kind of supernatural ghost-like they would think that perhaps they were hearing ghosts or hearing the dead rather than just gods or not really knowing what they're listening to.
Okay.
So it got to thinking about what kind of stories or things like that. I guess this is where all my words came from. They might have about those voices or about the things that they couldn't explain, like the paranormal, I guess, to them.
Oh, okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm understanding from what you're saying is you're saying that these people would probably draw a parallel to like the Meta Swan is not like this entity. It's just like spirits of the dead. Is that the kind of because that gives me?
Yeah, I mean they would probably treat if they didn't know what they were listening to, they might consider themselves I guess comparably to like a psychic.
Yeah.
Someone who could commune with the dead, or they wouldn't necessarily go straight to religion, for example. They might instead try to science it out with some kind of spiritual connection.
That's fair. I mean, and that's a real world parallel too, because we see that a lot. You know, there's a lot of these weird shows that are always just like, oh yeah, the Egyptians didn't communicate with gods; they communicated with extraterrestrials that came down and built the pyramids from the top down. It's just like, okay, you people are
to
crackpots.
quote literally, aliens.
Yeah, that was
My
perfect.
like
You did the hair thing.
I have been able to do that for months, and it bothers me that I can't.
So I like what you got there. So like the spirits would be sort of a yeah, and you know what we've been talking about like wasteland mystics and shamans and stuff like that. So people that use dust would probably be considered those clairvoyants or soothsayers, stuff like that. Yeah, I really like that. I like that we're sort of rather than saying that they know exactly what this weird alien entity is, that they're trying to draw a parallel that they can kind of grasp easier. I like that a lot.
Actually works pretty well too with the established lore, considering that the the whole thing with that dust, that great and mighty dust mind we mentioned more than once, it's not well known, and in fact, it seems to be shrouded in occultism and in power structures of various societies that may or may not want everyone to know that we're talking to a mind as vast as maybe even a galaxy. And so, yeah, maybe it's preferable for them to be like, yeah, it's totally ghosts, guys. It's ghosts.
It's
Wink.
ghosts.
Yeah. So that's
Ghosts are
perfect.
real.
And it might actually also be a simple matter of even they don't know. I think we can definitely always lean into the fact this is a post-apocalyptic, like subsistence style society in many parts of the planet.
Yeah.
The level of true understanding is probably limited. So even
Mm.
those folks, the bulk of them probably really don't know what they're messing with.
Yeah. Neil, do you have
In
any
a sense,
thoughts
they're
to?
kind of right. They are talking to ghosts because
Well,
you
yeah,
kind of
they
talked
are.
about it being like a collective consciousness where people's consciousness were absorbed into this hive mind, this system. So they're kind of talking to essentially whispers of the past, what used to be people.
Yeah.
And that's
So
a
they're not entirely
creepy
wrong.
thought. And
Yeah.
I think the
I think
longer
that
they're a
thought
part
is.
of that, the longer they're
Yeah,
a
you
part of
thought
that
these
hive
words
mind.
were fluffy.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of these are fluffy. Neil, do you have it?
Generation.
Neil, do you have any way to lighten this
Well,
area?
not necessarily, because I was thinking something similar with the stories and arcs. Because
Hmm.
I know you're saying that the dust is like it's been on more than one world, yeah. That
Yeah.
it's like seeing many civilizations go through the whole arc and then fall in apocalypses, you know. And there's like, and the idea that like you've got this collective unconsciousness of memories and stuff. Well, what if there were, I don't know, they could be mystics or soothsayers or even scholars in like maybe a Freemason Gnostic sense who are tapping into the dust and are trying to understand these recurring themes that seem to keep happening um in these different civilizations that keep rising and falling. It's like that. It's like, what was he said, that the dust refers to the apocalypse, as was it the inevitable or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like that they're like trying to understand how the story works, how the like that you've got this constant recurring narrative arc, um so as to try to stop it happening again, maybe, or maybe to try to, if we can understand the whole, with not great knowledge comes great power kind of thing. Maybe it's in an altruistic sense of we can fix things, or maybe it's in a really like a selfish way of, if I can understand this, then I can rewrite the story, and if I can rewrite the story, well, what godlike powers would that give me? So
Mm.
That's a really interesting thought, and the first thing I think of with that is I make a lot of Fallout references. This reminds me of the followers of the apocalypse because they're trying to sort of understand what happened in the past world so they can prevent something like that from happening again. I like the idea of these being sort of a Freemason-esque society. I wrote that
Mm.
down on the document. I really do like that idea of, and I think like this group in particular would be so like rational in their thinking that they would probably be like not accepted by anybody because
mm,
they're
Mm.
trying to look for like a big grandiose reason why the apocalypse happened, how to get over it, how to prevent it from happening again, and then you have this sort of small collected tight knit society that's trying to explain to people this has happened before, so we're trying to interpret what the dust is telling us so we can prevent it from happening again, right? And everybody else is just like, shut the hell up. We know what we're talking about.
What are you talking about?
Nerds.
but,
I,
but
I do
even
I do think that there's like definitely something to be said for that actually, because if you think about it, this whole collective consciousness, we talk about it being like, I mean, it would be, if this gone from planet to planet, it's seen apocalypse after apocalypse, it would be
Yeah.
like thousands, millions of minds kind of
yeah,
absorbed into this consciousness. That's going to be very confusing to disentangle all those voices. And I can definitely see people that would dedicate their lives to try to understand the patterns behind it and try to understand, what words are being said more than other words,
Mm.
and really take it in like I've brought it back to maths. I've brought it back to maths. And really take it in like a very like mathematical direction to try to literally like science out the patterns to try and understand what the message is that this consciousness is trying to get across.
Yeah.
But I do think it's like within any organization, you always have good people and bad people. So you'd have some people who are like altruistic scholars trying to figure out the pattern to try to stop it from happening again. But then I totally could see how there could be a certain group or individuals within that organization who are trying to figure out the pattern and not so that they can stop it happening again, but so that they can make sure that if it does happen, that they are the ones who are on top afterwards, or you know, steer it in a way that you have maybe a controlled apocalypse and not everything falls around, and only certain places get destroyed and other places survive. Like in a really kind of messed up, almost kind of like I don't know, nuke style idea of
Yeah, or even
using an apocalypse.
trying to figure out what the power is, what the big
Mm,
thing is, the catastrophe that kills everything. Trying to
yeah,
figure out what that is so that they can harness it.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
People are arrogant,
Mhm.
and
Inherently, yeah.
they overestimate their own intelligence, and they think, well, if I can understand it before it happens, I'll know how to control it when it does happen, and then everyone will have to fall and bow to me, or they're gonna get death starred, like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
essentially.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a
Yeah.
That does.
pitch.
Huh?
I do have a bit of a pitch. For this Freemason-esque society, why don't we just call them the Ark?
I'm
Oh,
down
that's
with it. I
great.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll call them the
As
Ark.
in the
that's
arc of
really,
history. Yeah, I love that.
yeah,
That's very poetic. I love that.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
We can now cross the arc off the list. That actually is legitimately, I think, the best use of that word I
Yeah,
can
well, there
find.
you go. I really like this idea because what we've tried to sort of inset in the and also let me just say this, I appreciate you guys so much going back and watching the streams to like do your homework. That
Yeah.
makes me so happy. Thank you. That genuinely
Mhm.
makes me
Yeah,
smile.
we weren't going to be doing it live, man. All right.
That also does very much explain our large number of VOD views, and we very much appreciate it, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you underestimate the power of anxiety. I think
I need to know
And you know,
everything.
everything before I come
uh,
in.
teacher, I'm gonna make sure I have my homework done. I have an assignment due. I'm gonna do my work.
Oh, I can't wait
Oh,
till
God.
oh man, when this gets monetized, I swear I can't wait to pay my guests because this is just, oh man, you guys deserve every penny that I can give you.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're gonna head out and we're gonna go to a panel or something, talk about it, and then you're like, "What about this?" And we're like, our guests know more about that than we do."
so
Let me call my consultants. Everyone else on the chat.
just get a group call. There's like 12
Yeah.
people in it.
Yeah.
So you guys
Oh,
remember
God.
that thing you were talking about, the meta swap? Like somebody's asking about it. This freaking nerd's asking about the meta swap.
And I can't remember anything.
Hey man, I
Um,
just run the show.
we can barely keep our minds on task. Have you seen us?
Did you see the 4-hour stream that should have taken 2 hours?
I will say that I think that actually does play really well. Like the underlying ideas are really solid, and it does actually fit very well with the overarching themes we have.
Oh,
Uh,
I started going off and I forgot to digress back to my point.
yes, do it.
Yes. Yes. What you were saying, this does follow very much the sort of thing that we've laid out. Everybody has a different idea of how the world ended. Everybody has a different idea how things should be, and everybody has a different idea for what lay in the future. And they could be wrong. They could be correct. Doesn't matter. They're still killing each other over it. They're still pining for this information. They're spending their entire lives grinding away at this information. And there is actually a group that does what the Ark does to an extreme, in a religious sense. They literally plug people into these dust machines and have them translate, act as like living Rosetta Stones. And yeah, that's not a good life to live. They die at like 30, if they're lucky. But
Probably won't be fully conscious for that last couple of years of their life.
yeah, the arc is from what I've gotten from your ideas, Neil and Kat. The arc is a lot more of like an ethical sort of like, I don't want to say civilized because they're not. Because from what we said, they just like you do have like a splinter organization that's like ready to be like, okay, we might bring about the end if we find the way to do it, and then we'll put ourselves on top if we can. So they're a bit of like a, I want to say they're
Well,
sort of oligarchical.
like I was also thinking, like, when you think of Gnostic groups like Freemasons and the likes, and here's
Mhm.
my socialism coming into it, they are overwhelmingly wealthy, affluent men in
Yeah.
these organizations. So, like, enough said, really.
Also,
You've got a bunch of,
you're saying that the people in this are like also like that. They're affluent. They're like really rich people that might actually
well,
run cities.
I don't know about necessarily run cities, but if they're looking at it from a more scholarly way of studying the dust, then that would imply greater access to education, which would imply a greater
Wealth.
level of affluence and wealth. Even if they're not necessarily within the ruling structure, they're probably going to be from wealth if they have the opportunity to get the kind of education that you would have, which would be limited in general, but in a post apocalypse world, then that's going to be even more limited because most people don't have the time to go to school because they're too busy just surviving. You know,
Yeah. That,
so
That's fair.
yeah, so in my head, these people would be they're going to be affluent, they're going to be from wealthier backgrounds. And then you've got all of the baggage that comes with a bunch of rich people all standing around in a room, all thinking they're the smartest person in the room,
That
even if they are genuinely kind and altruistic people. That creates a certain kind of dynamic.
I've met a lot of Freemasons, and let me tell
Yeah.
you, my
Yeah.
my father is a Mason. They
Common
are
like
all like
cause,
that.
but like very different motivations as to why they're trying to
Yeah.
do it. Like I just love this idea of these people like kind of on the surface they're all like helping each other out, comparing notes, but like secretly they're actually all just working to compete with each other and try and be the first to crack it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mozart and Salieri, like
yeah.
literally, is the thing that pops into my head, and that does track very much with the historical reality, which is that if you have the time and energy to spend your entire life pursuing a question, you're probably well off enough where that's the worst thing you're going to be dealing with.
Oh, speaking of
And
Yeah.
Mozart and Salieri, highly recommend watching Amadeus if you haven't seen it. That's such a good movie.
oh,
Anyway,
it really is
go on.
phenomenal.
You're say. I
Yeah, no,
love that movie.
I wasn't referencing that at all. That wasn't exactly the thing that made me think of that.
Oh, that's what
But
made
yeah,
me think of
it
it.
definitely it does track, and I
Yeah.
think that's also I think it's also important to like also put in perspective because we keep calling back to it, and it is a really relevant point.
Hmm.
Is that this society is in fact in and of itself post-apocalyptic, like you've mentioned, and this does mean resources are limited. We
Mm.
often think about these sort of things in the context of now. So it's like, oh yes, Freemasons. They're in every city. There's a lodge somewhere. They probably have Shriners who ride like Mario style go karts through parades. But in this setting, cities are probably about as big as a civilization will ever get. You're not going to have things that are easily widespread. So even like what we would consider a widespread conspiracy theory might maybe make it to 3 to 4 city states before it just literally can't go much further. And if it does go even further than that, it's probably going to be highly distorted by distance and time. And the idea that even these more learned scholarly individuals, they are operating with gathering knowledge from what is at best an unreliable source, not necessarily because it might not necessarily know the truth. Maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't even know the truth itself, because again, big abstract non-human thought process going on here, and us little tiny humans are gently scratching the surface and hoping we know what the whole iceberg is.
And I think that's where stories comes in, because I feel like these people would not just be academics that are trying to find reason in things. I think that they're fearmongers and gaslighters as well. So they spread information amongst cities to sort of get a sense of mass hysteria so they can sort of insert themselves into political power. Some, not all.
immediately
Ooh, that's
thinking
an
of like the sparrows from Game of Thrones in that way.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what do
And
we
like
think
It
of
just
has.
that?
to try and like throw each other off the scent as well
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
they're kind of. What I really like as well is obviously again we'll go back to the fact that all of these all of all of these planets that have been kind of subsumed into this consciousness, they'll all have had different technologies before the apocalypse happened and things, words that don't even exist in the language of this planet.
Yeah.
So all of these people are trying to figure out what even is this. It's like if you were to have an apocalypse now and then you were to hear the word like iPhone
Oh, what the
repeated
hell
again
is
and
a
again,
YouTube?
you wouldn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
So it would just be them trying to figure out like and getting it wrong sometimes or making too much of a thing out of something that actually isn't anything at all, but purposefully doing that in order to try to throw each other off the scent of what they've really discovered.
I think that works really well. My mind goes always back to the movie Mortal Engines, which is a very flawed but very cool concept movie. And in it, there's one particular scene I think of, which is at the very beginning, where it's a kid running through a city that's currently going through a battle, and he's desperately trying to get to his job. And when he arrives at his job, which is at a museum, it's revealed they're like, "Oh God, the city's swaying so much, and it's messing up all of our displays. Quickly get the early 2000s deities secured." And it's just like it's three old like minion displays that were in a movie theater, because for them they're like, yeah, no, movies were actually a means by which the zeitgeist was communicated. Why else would they spend literally so much currency and time watching these things on screen if they
Yeah.
didn't believe they were gods?
Mm.
And explaining that level of commercialism to someone in that era might literally be impossible. Um,
That
so
is a
I
bit
love that.
meta though. Like,
Oh no, it was 100% a meta dig. I'm
yeah.
obviously it didn't have to do with the fact that that same studio in fact released the Minions movie that same year. But at the same time, the idea is still sound, and the idea of distorting truth, or whether it be earnest or in this case it sounds quite malevolent by design, even if it's a benign malevolence,
Yeah.
not like a destroy the world kind of thing. Who do you take us for? We're scholars.
Mm.
But man, how many scholars have totally messed up history, and we ran with it for so long before we found out they were full of crap.
Yeah,
True.
like there could even be people within the arc who are deliberately changing the story because they're worried that, oh, well, if people understood things, then they might bring about an apocalypse more quickly, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The, you know, the
Subsects within the arc.
yeah.
yeah.
That actually did happen in history. There's a very easy parallel to draw to that. People who scribed the Bible, a lot of them would insert their own opinions and thoughts and philosophies on things into a text that they're literally just supposed to be copying verbatim, and that spread a lot of trouble with the Catholic Church because you had these people that would spend their entire lives scribing their own version of the Bible with their own thoughts and beliefs and stuff like that.
It's actually believed that the Druids of the ancient Celts, the reason they did not write anything down was for that reason, because the distrust of the written word that, well, anybody can add their own bit to it, but if it's all spoken and learned off verbatim, and so everybody who hears it has heard it before, so they'll know if you've added something to it, you know. So that's what they think was the reason why they did because these were like incredibly educated men and women. They could, a lot of them could speak Latin, they could speak other languages of the other like Celtic nations, if you will,
Yeah,
but that there was this inherent distrust of the written word because, well, if you write it down, what's to stop this person from then adding another sentence and then changing the message?
absolutely. And that wasn't just a Celtic idea. That actually was
Hmm.
a big issue in Rome, with a lot of philosophers saying that if we start writing everything down, not only will people get lazy, but people will start changing the script and changing how things are done. And that happened. That happened a lot, especially in Rome, because Rome is where that saying "victory is written by the" or "history is written by the
History from
victors."
the victors.
Yeah, that's where that comes from. And tying that back to Celtic history, the Romans actually did invade what is Ireland, and they were horrified to find a bunch of naked men with shields and spears doing the same sort of formations that they were doing, and they thought they were so advanced with their phalanx and stuff like that. They got defeated by the ancient Celts. Rome got defeated by the ancient Celts. So what they wrote down is these people are a bunch of savages. We fought them off. Blah blah blah. No, the
Who
Celts.
even wants their plot of land anyway? We did him a favor. Relax. It
That's
wasn't like we got thrown out on our year.
that is the main reason that the Anglo-Saxons took so long to do anything with Western Europe and Ireland and Scotland and just Celtic territory at all, because the Romans couldn't even defeat the Irish, the ancient Irish.
Yeah, well, I mean, they built a wall across Scotland. They were like, lads, we're just going to stop here. There's no point in going any further north. They're
Yeah.
all nuts up there. You know? It's like,
Oh God. Yeah. No, I think that's. I think these are all very fair points, and I think it's. I think to reel it back to the idea of these. Of sort of this society, this clan, this. We can also say I think we can work clandestine into here as well.
I think clandestine is going to be worked in no matter
Yeah.
what, because it's just a good word.
Yeah, like, and it's because I like the idea that, like many structures in this world, especially in the city states, you maintain control and power by limiting knowledge. Even these folks that want to spread knowledge or uncover it, catalog it, use it to the advantage of ostensibly all mankind, even they would still nitpick who gets the full story. As you mentioned earlier, maybe they're worried about the apocalypse coming sooner. The second someone finds out how to reenact it, the first thing someone's going to do is reenact it. Other cases might literally just be naked political power. The idea that you could have political operatives who join this community because their father did it, or their grandfather did it, or their how many family members back are part of this. And for them, it's a method of political power. And they joined and they use it exclusively so that they have legitimacy. They say, oh, yes, well, the leader of our city is a learned scholar and a member of the Ark. Who would distrust this man? Meanwhile, super corrupt, but yeah, sure, he might know a couple of miles of litany of this most recent cant out of the great like dust mine. But that doesn't mean he's redeeming character whatsoever.
And I think that's a good summarization of what we have with arcs and stories, and I think that's a good cap on the pen for that. So I think we could move on to a different topic, because we just developed an entire organization.
Yet another cultural and like economic angle of this entire civilization. Yes.
So we have spirits, stories, and arc done. So ideas. No Starlight Express, by the way, please.
We already have one train.
We have, yeah.
Tiny secret starlight locomotive.
Oh no! I can hear American Cat calling. You rang.
What if we go with? Let's try something unique we haven't done before. Let's throw ourselves into wildlife.
Oh boy!
Let's actually try that.
I can't avoid this any longer.
It's gonna be tough.
Wildlife it is.
So if we're going to talk about wildlife, then I think the first thing we need to acknowledge is a focused. I think we need to really focus on like the region of what we're going to be dealing with here, because the world of Aeos is large enough. I assume it's Earth, and it's like Earth equivalent or around there. So
yes, question mark.
Yeah, again, everything asterisks here.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of diversity. I'm sure we could always go further north or further south or east or west. You know, want a cold climb or an alpine climb, we could do it, what have you. But it seems like we're focusing a lot on a more wasteland, almost feels like taiga-esque biome whenever we talk about this place. We almost always talk about desolation when we're talking about this region.
There's going to be a lot of deserts, be it frozen or hot, you know, because
or just dust obliterated.
I feel like a good way to wind down our topic, not wind down, but like narrow it a little bit with wildlife, is to have one of our guests pick another word to tie in with wildlife.
Down with that. Yes.
Oil wildlife.
Void.
Void wildlife? That is creepy.
Yeah.
I like it.
That
Well,
Because
actually,
you want it mutated.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that actually works too. Because I'm thinking of like deep sea.
That's
The
true.
void is literally is one of the words we use to describe the no light zone, which turns
Yeah.
out there's just a point where you can't really see further down in the
Yeah.
ocean. And we're really not sure what's down there, except it be big and it's kind of cool. Maybe scary.
So let's bring
Big
those
question.
things to surface, is what you're saying.
Why not, right? Dust contaminated the world. Who knows what might decide to come up out of the dust, out of the bottom of
Yeah.
the ocean?
Well, here's what I was wondering, because I mean, whenever we talk about like we're picturing like these kind of like barren, desolate plains, are there also areas which are like lush, verdant forests?
Yeah, because that's something I was thinking
yeah.
about. I was just like, well, it's the apocalypse. It's been 100, 200 years. Nature is, as we found as being humans, very pervasive, and it sort of gets
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm.
So there would
Yeah,
be
like
like big lush zones with like giant trees and stuff like that, I feel.
because even we know this ourselves, like within 20 years of humans leaving an area, it very quickly begins to repopulate. You just have to look at places like Chernobyl or the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. One of the highest concentrations of what Asiatic tigers is in the demilitarized zone because there's nobody going there to hunt them, and it's a verdant forest. So where the dust hasn't made the land desolate and barren, if there's no people living there, it would make sense that the forests would come back,
Yeah.
But
Well, then that
but
would imply that the areas where there is just this desolate wasteland is because the dust is directly affecting the wildlife. It's unable to grow, it's unable to populate because the dust is doing something to it.
That's
Um,
true.
or conversely, there was, if we really want to flip it, the apocalypse made these places barren, and the dust isn't able to go in there. And because like we talk about like mutation and all the rest of that from the dust, well, what if there's animals that have been mutated and plants that have been mutated, and part of the reason why people don't go into the forest is you don't come back out.
Oh.
They're so
They're
dangerous.
too verdant.
I actually
Yeah,
have.
they're so dangerous that going back to the idea of a void as well. It's like, well, we can think of void in the sense of deep seas and oceans, but what if void is like the place where humans can't go because they will just die?
I actually have
Oh,
a tie for that, Neil. I actually have a perfect tie for that. So,
Everything the light touches, Simba.
so I'm imagining this really creepy scene. Oh man, how many are any of you Magic the Gathering players?
No, sorry.
Oh
No,
damn.
but I do know some about the setting.
So I'm trying to think of what it's called. Anyway, there's there's art of this white land that's like this city in the middle of like, and everything around is just dead, and it's just sort of like light shining down on the city. What I'm imagining is the cities are the center of growth, and everything outside of the cities was sort of just plagued and choked by dust. But like nature is sort of like retaking the dust little by little and sort of absorbing it and just like taking it. So the centers of these giant forests, humans probably wouldn't know this unless that's a short story idea, but humans wouldn't know the very center of these giant forests that people shouldn't go into, they're actually the cities of the old world, because that was where all the green was.
Yeah.
I actually loved that idea.
Yeah.
I had an idea in my head of the one tethered character I made, the Glazier, and I like the idea he lives outside the city in an old shattered skyscraper. And he just hermit style comes back to the city occasionally when they need him. They send a runner out to get him, or like a bird or something. And that's when he arrives because he's too dangerous to stay in the city. And I love the idea of using reclaimed ruins as a setting. It's something that speaks to me very visually, and it's very jarring. We're used to the idea of a city as being a place you want to necessarily go to, but the idea that it is also now so hostile we cannot approach it.
Like
Is
Last of Us. Last of Us is a very great example of
I
what
was
I
gonna
imagine the
say that
cities.
Last of Us is very that.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's so jarring because like
Yeah.
it's uncanny because these buildings are like leaning for some reason that just really sets us off. We literally have an entire monument, the Tower of Pisa. Literally, just we look at that just because it's weird, just because it's leaning,
Yeah.
and it's like because it was
What
built on
clown messed that
unstable.
up, quote unquote, is like the thing I often hear before you explain, like, no, it's just the soil, kids. There's
It's
no
just
way they could have known when
shifting
they built this
ground.
place.
Yeah, they didn't know
Yeah.
about bedrock and all that sort of thing when they were constructing buildings.
Or at least they certainly didn't account for it enough back then, or might have not been able to practically.
Well, here's this. Now, I don't know if this will fit with it or not, but I'm just throwing it out here because the dust is this hive mind and has been on other planets. Would it perhaps be that some of the mutation that has occurred in the wildlife is that flora or fauna has been mutated and now not is a copy of, but looks closer to flora and fauna that was on other planets?
It's like
Oh,
emulating it.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
it's like a weird
like-
pollinization sort of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like this is how the hive memory is being manifested in flora and fauna. In people, it's stories and it's the magic and the tethering, but in flora and fauna, one way could be this emulation.
But what if it's mixing it up? Like the dust, when it gives the whispers and the messages to people, all the messages are coming through all mixed up. What if it's mixing up what the things look like as well? So if you get like a deer, for example, but it's mixing it up with some kind of carnivorous beast, and so
Yeah.
you
So-
end up with some like creature that looks like a cross between multiple creatures because the dust is kind of mutating and creating hybrid forms.
So I gotta
I'm gonna
pop
go let
in
my dog in
here.
real quick.
How many folks have actually seen the movie Annihilation? A show of hands.
On my
Will in the bed,
to-list
it's like 0.
watch list.
No, it's fine. It is okay. I think there's cool parts of it, but also I think that it's a bit of a slog. Super fun. And if you're there for the world building and the cool concepts below it, super awesome. If you're there for a scary horror movie, you're just going to be weirded out.
Are you talking
I
about
feel like-
Dinotopia again?
No. Actually, the movie is called Annihilation. And so the idea behind it, screw it, it's old and I don't mind spoiling it. And if anyone out there doesn't want to be spoiled, heads up, you're going to want to mute for exactly all of 30 seconds starting now. The idea behind Annihilation is that a comet crashes into a place and it gives off this weird signal, and the signal literally mutates everything nearby. Not like Fallout, but like a prism. So radio waves don't work within that region, they just sort of fuzz out. If it's animal life, it's literally causing animals to sort of, in a way, blend their genetics. So you have deer that walk around, and when they turn around, you see that their antlers are covered in vines and turning into flowers. You see a crocodile that is developing like layers of shark-style teeth in its mouth and gills because it ate a shark, and the genes from the thing in its stomach are merging with it. A bear comes around the area, and it screams with a human voice because the last thing it killed was a person.
I
And
did see that movie.
That's so cool.
That sounds like a
And
nightmare.
it is.
I will watch
It's
that for
super
the
beautiful
world building.
and
It's a good
distressing as
movie.
hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend Annihilation for anyone who loves the idea of just, I want to make cool life forms. Annihilation. Just get ready for it to get really dark and have some really gross moments.
That sounds like a more hardcore version of Earthbound. I don't know how many people know about that, but like a comet hit Earth and then
Yeah.
like weird shit starts happening. I need to watch that. That sounds cool.
It's pretty fun. I recommend it. But that does very much give me the vibe of what we're getting here. I love the idea of dust causing mutations and sort of crossing the streams of of like the genetic library of Earth. I do like the idea of extraterrestrial life kind of bleeding in there too. I think we need to be careful with it because, especially as like story creators, the urge for us to be like, yeah, all this crazy meta stuff that the average player, person, GM, and definitely the people in this world would not know. Like, I think the idea that this stuff even is on other worlds would be so exclusively controlled knowledge among those who know
By the
that
Ark.
even the scholars in the Ark probably aren't really even sure. I even like the idea, maybe that's where the idea of some of these stories and mythologies come from, is us misinterpreting visions of other worlds as a mythology for this one.
And we
well,
were
I suppose
actually talking about mutated humans.
Yes.
So that might have something to do. A genetic mutation that allows humans to form thicker skin to resist cuts or something like that. You know.
I mean,
One thing I
honestly,
would.
I'm like, I'm thinking like exactly what you're saying, Omni. I think it's one of those things that if you were to like set a game in this world, you could really, and you decided, oh, the players are going to go out and explore this like dust choked land. You
Yeah.
could, as a DMGM, have creative license to kind of really figure out what these hybrids and stuff look like. But it's one of those things that, as you're world building and just creating a general overview of the world, you don't know. Essentially,
Right.
that's the kind of like vibe that you're getting. This is the stories that people tell, that there's these crazy creatures that are all twisted and they don't make anatomical or like sense in terms of evolution at all.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it goes, and you know it's dangerous and nobody ever comes back from there.
Right.
You might find out if you were to like set a story there that actually there's other reasons why you don't come back from there that isn't because you're dead. It's because you know people have decided, oh wow, actually it's actually really lovely here, like or whatever. It's
Or
like,
they
no
get
holiday.
halfway there and they just turn into something else, and they just aren't
Yeah,
recognizable
exactly.
humans.
And then suddenly
Yeah.
they're part bird, and they just like, okay, well, it's I guess time to go and build a nest.
Yeah.
Neil, did you have an
I-
idea?
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, like, from yet again from the GM's hat on my head, like, yeah, if I'm world building, I need to keep it nice and small and simple because there's just way too much scope for this. You could go nuts. But
Oh,
if
yeah.
you've got like say 3 different examples of weird, crazy, I don't know, kaiju hybrid whatever's as examples, that then as a GM, if I want to throw something at my players, well, we know that these are some of the things that exist in these regions, but there are other unknown towers. So then you're like literally there's a blank slate for your GM of like, okay, so they've been really like taking apart this stuff. I want to create a challenge. It's kind of like you're not tying them into a monsters manual list of creatures kind of idea, but you're giving them a guide with creative license to go, well, here's some fun stuff that you can have in it as well. Or as Kat was saying, if you want to, you can use this as a hook for your next arc of, well, there's this nomadic group that actually lives in here as well, and we're gonna go down that line as well. It's like this going back to what we said, like, because the idea like of the word avoid of like, well, we don't know what's in there. And I think that really can give you a lot as a GM of like scope to like without being worried about, am I breaking the world? Am I like, am I like, I might as well just be writing my own setting. It's like, no, here are these pockets within the world where like no one actually knows what's in there. So you can be like putting all sorts of crazy stuff, not gonna swear, into this into this section of your world without rewriting stuff to the point where people are saying, dude, why didn't you just make your own setting?
Forgotten Realm syndrome is what it is.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
100%.
as much as I love Forgotten Realms,
Oh,
do
I
we
hate
really
it.
need to know literally every single name and every single NPC name of every single building in Waterdeep, and then beyond it, literally every cosmology level of the entire multiverse, which your average person will literally not interact with?
They'll just ignore. Yeah.
Like,
straight up
or not
ignore.
even ignore, just not be aware of. If I'm making a bard who's living in Waterdeep, and all I do is just play some music, try to get free drinks, and occasionally hook up with people because of my character's a filthy piece of crap, then my guy is literally never going to need to know that Bilal is the 33rd Lord of the 8th Ring of this realm. The fact that Bilal has stats for this now just means my GM has more stuff to look through, to sift through, to ignore, or like literally just go like, well, we're never going to use that.
Yeah.
And just put it in the pile of stuff
as
we
an
can't use.
over-preparing DM, I feel this pain.
Yeah.
I did the
I
same
just
thing.
sit there and look through so much lore, and I'm like, that's so interesting. And then I get about 2 hours in, and I'm like,
And you're like,
oh,
crap, I
okay,
haven't
I'm
finished
just
preparing the
learning.
session.
Nothing to do with what the. Move on.
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing when I was writing the. I finished, quote unquote, writing the prep for the Call of Cthulhu session. I just kept like, I was like, okay, I have all these characters, this whole cast of characters. I'm gonna make more, and I'm like, No, that's a horrible idea. We're getting near
Yeah.
the end. I don't need to make any more NPCs to push people in the right direction. I've already made enough, and people can sort of develop relationships with the 5 or 6 I've already introduced that are important to the story. And it just most of creation is just you realizing that bully that's a horrible idea. I just spent 2 hours working on it. Now I'm gonna come all the way back and realize that, oh man, I just wasted all this time. And creating a
Human
world,
creativity is unlimited. Sadly, human time is not.
yeah,
It's the summary.
and creating a world, what you were saying, Neil, creating a world is, yeah, you want to have just enough to build interest, but not too much to the point where you feel overwhelmed learning said information and
Yeah.
unable to interact with the world. And that is Forgotten Realms syndrome, yeah.
100%. I mean, like, I know for myself, my own style of running my game is I've got my villain and I've got my arc, and I might have, like, I have my 2 or 3 other power plays or people who are in charge, but it's like, beyond that, it's like, I'm the opposite of Kat. I'm like, I'm not one of these improvise everything, but it's like I keep the thing as minimal as possible and wait to see which my players are going to interact with, and then based on the notes I have, I can then go down that rabbit hole. And I think what we're creating here is a really nice system whereby we have a number of key structures and power systems in place that you will have a variety of different protagonists or antagonists that you can present to your players. And then based on what thing they latch onto, you can then, okay, we're going to go then this way. So we're looking at these tethers, we're looking at these nomadic people, these Mennonite guys, or what, or the Ark, or whatever it is, or, and I like, it means that you have less to write as a game designer, but you're giving your players more choice.
And
Yeah,
your
and
GMs
that's
who might be playing the system more choice to develop too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
I actually think I have a way to cap this off.
go ahead, man.
So, okay. I love the idea of the void, and that the idea that the void it's the place where human civilization struggles to penetrate in the wild, whether that is in the deep seas, whether that's literally the forests that get too dense, far enough out in the desert where you just won't be able to get enough food, and who knows what's lurking out there. And the deeper into the void you go, the more dangerous the encounters get. And so what we could use for this in an aspirational system, whether it be for a role-playing game or just as a setting guide, is that the depth into the void determines the lethality or the size of the life you encounter. So if you're out of the void, you're dealing with relatively normal life forms. Bear be bear, deer be deer, fox be fox, falcon be falcon. But you get a little further in, and life begins to start merging. So you have like your stage 1 void creatures, broadly speaking, where it's like, okay, this is starting into the end of the part where humans don't really interact with very much. So life starts getting strange. You might deal with a snake that doesn't necessarily just bite you when you come close, but lunges out intestines with fangs at the end. Or like the idea of, hey, it's a Venus flytrap, but now it's about 20 feet wide, and it actually just waits under the sand for you to step on it.
Yeah, and it's in a little shop, and
right,
it sings songs.
Don't call it Audrey. It might not like that. But
Exactly.
but it's still recognizably normal life. It's just slightly weird in a way that's more dangerous than stage 2, stage 3. By the time you're done, you get into deep void creatures, where it's
like Funnysaurus Rexes.
right. It's kaiju, really, is what we're talking about at that point. Like,
Yeah.
Somebody said
stuff that would be old world terror.
somebody in the chat said Dustosaurus. I think that was Artemis.
Yeah, everyone in the chat has been talking about dinosaurs, so then I was like, what can I merge with a dinosaur? And that's where my head's been for the last 3 minutes.
I think
I love that.
Oh, what's that one? Somebody might know this better than I am. I'm no paleontologist. There's this giant bird creature that is so uncanny looking. It's not a pterodactyl. It's got this giant bill and these massive arms, and it sort of.
It's Skybacks. I thank you, Dinotopia.
Is it?
You recognize it. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's the Skybacks.
But they have like.
Pterodon is one.
No,
The
pterodon's what I'm thinking of. A pterodon
Oh, it
is
is
what.
pterodon?
Yeah, so
Skybacks are very similar too. They have that giant honking.
they like walk on all fours, but they could fly. Those things are
Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh yeah. They were like, what was it, crazy? Something like 5-meter wingspan.
They
or
were like
something.
taller
Like
than giraffes.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were huge. Yeah.
I'm gonna look that.
It's
I'm
one
gonna
of
look
those.
that up
It
real
looks
quick.
okay at a distance, then you put a human to scale next to you, and you're like, oh my god, everything is wrong with nature.
No,
Yeah.
just put like a black and white and like sort of grainy filter over it. It's like a horror movie creature. Like they're so terrifying. Are they called pterodactyls? What am I?
Yeah, it's pterodon, I think. Yeah.
Giant
Yeah,
bird.
here we go. I found that exact picture. It's a petrosaur is the proper term, the non
Oh,
Flintstonian version.
Quetzalcoatlus. That's what I was. That's what they're.
Yeah, that's what the Skybax is based off of.
Those things are the creepiest damn things. Like,
yeah, here I'm just
I'll see
gonna
if this
put
shows up
link
well
in
on
art.
screen. Maybe no, not focusing. Great. All right.
Here you go.
Oh,
I actually
snap.
have a picture in
Wow.
art
Oh,
in
you
the
put you
art
put it.
section of the channel for you, which is the scale you're thinking of.
Yeah, I'll
And-
have to. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Pardon the camera.
The weird thing is, it almost looks like a person wearing one of those like weird walking frames you see at some like cosplay events.
Those things creep me the hell out. Like, look,
right.
look
It
at this,
looks like a
folks.
person wearing one of those, and then someone grafted a giraffe on top, and then put a giant power boat made of bone on the very
They're
top of that.
so big.
They're so
They're
creepy.
massive, and it
I-
flew.
What
Somehow
the
that flies.
It reminds me of that thing. Just
No,
like bees are technically too fat to fly. Oh, that's creepy. Well, on that note, folks, I think we'll take our break. We actually did a good job. We got through 5 words, roughly.
Velociduster.
Yeah,
That was pretty decent.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we finally
Five
got to wildlife.
We did.
Finally did it, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Woohoo! That was the aim.
It's kind of cute. What the hell is wrong with you, Artemis? That's not cute. That's terrifying.
It's a little cute in that weird, abstract, this is an adorable Muppet, but then you realize the actual nature of what it is, and you're like, oh, it's not cute as
Those things have teeth, by the way, in case you were wondering. They do have teeth. But folks, Gem Time Games, it's terrifying. Oh my
terrifying.
god.
Terrifying.
Neil's the father. He should be the one making dad jokes.
Yeah, I'm also a biology teacher, so you know this stuff doesn't really freak me out.
You're used to
That's
looking at
pretty
weird
fair.
stuff, yeah.
Weedy eyes.
Just wants a
wants
fish. What kind of fish is it eating? Good lord.
Yeah, like fish the size of a whale.
Yeah. Dunkley astute in its jaws, and it's like, sup, man, I just grabbed this little thing out of the ocean, don't mind me. Thing that could sink a normal modern submarine.
So we will take we'll take our break on that note. Folks, stick around. In the meantime, during break, we will be taking prompts, and during that part, we will be taking prompts from you. Obviously, I just said that twice. Stick around. Give us some prompts. Any sort of writing prompts. It could be It could be about a topic that we have. It could be about a word that we didn't get to. Talking about like like for example, what sort of animals would we have as an example, like Neil was talking about, rather than having like an entire menagerie, we could have like 3. That sort of thing. So folks, we're gonna take a 5 to 10 minute break. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Hello, folks. We are back, and the audio is on this time. I promise.
Yeah.
So, we are going to be I'm positive. I think. Okay, wait. Say something.
Don't jinx it.
Say something. I'm watching the bars right now.
Something.
Perfect.
Something.
Okay, we're alive. All right, excellent.
It's
Oh,
erased to the bottom of my creativity with my response.
so we are looking through prompts now. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Also, thank you, Artemis. Thank you, Kier, for the praise in the chat. Not a very good at doing this stream stuff, mostly because I forget about all of it. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, I have a bunch of stuff to do. Can't remember a damn lick of it. And then I sit down and realize that, oh yeah, I didn't even change the Twitch prompter, so it still says chip off the block. And I'm like, god damn it. We're halfway through the show, so cuss as much as you want. Let's see.
Artemis is yelling at us for not being on time.
Are they not?
We were talking about capitalism, sorry.
We-
Sorry, it got heated.
What time do you call this, Red? Hold on, it's okay. We're just having a nice chat amongst friends. We were talking about the great topic of capitalism and
And the weather.
infrastructure. Yeah.
Yes, weather and capitalism and how we're all entangled in all of it, and it never ends. So yes.
And we come to the consensus that it's just miserable everywhere in different ways.
Ways.
So,
Oh, God.
let's taking a look at prompts.
I did
Artemis,
save one on the document already as a comment, which I thought was interesting earlier. But
we'll take the prompts first, and then we'll go from there.
Great, yeah.
Artemis said, if I had to pick one, I'd love to watch everyone scramble over vicarious or syncopation. Syncopation, excuse me.
God, syncopating. Yeah.
I'm a nerdy musician, so I had to pick a music word. I was also a musician at one point. I totally understand. I still am. You never don't stop being a musician. Don't stop. Damn, I just had a Red Hot Chili Pepper song stuck in my head. So let's see. Outer void, inner void, deep void. Okay, that's deep.
Yeah, that was what I put in there. That was the like my easy gauge of like, okay, now that we have an idea as to what how we can categorize life forms, like, you know.
Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah, you were saying that before the.
Yeah,
break, that's right.
exactly. So outer void, inner void, and deep void animals.
So Artemis said that they wanted to see either vicarious or syncopation, and what did I have on my clipboard there? Vicarious and syncopation. Well, syncopation is an interesting word. That's sort of like a diagonal word. It's abstract, but in the sense that syncopation is not going to be as simple as just like, oh, it's music, syncopating with music. That's definitely a diagonal word, as I think we'll start calling those from now on. It's just very out there and hard to draw back to. But that being said, it inspires some very interesting thought. It's a little bit of a challenge word, dare I say. So we have that on the docket. What else do we got? Kier said to go ahead and use some of the crystal words, he said. So he said obsidian, amethyst. I'll just put crystal. I think crystal is a good prompt as well.
That is, yeah.
I said crystalline was one of the...
Crystalline.
Yeah.
That is what we will put it down as. Let's see.
Folks, I can't live without my s'mores cookies.
S'mores cookies. I can't live without my third cup of coffee that I just finished off, and now I'm sad. I'm gonna have a hard time later this evening. I'll just say that much. I do not usually drink this much coffee. I ended with the image. Blah 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 blah. Thank you for folks. Thanks folks for interacting in the chat. That actually does mean a lot to me. It helps with my interactions too.
Indeed. Makes it fun for all of us.
Let's see. We got distracted talking about the weather. Yeah, that we did. That we did. We did for like 10 minutes. That's alright. And this is
there were so many types of rain, but as it turns out,
there's 3 types of rain here in Missouri: regular rain, sideways rain, and freezing rain. That's it. Those are the 3 types, and they're all miserable.
We could always add weather as a list topic if you want to make this discussion canon.
You don't screw it. Let's put down weather as one of our prompts because we were talking about it. Let's be relevant. Okay, so let's start with the first prompts that we got. Do we have any ideas for vicarious or syncopation? Does anything like instantly come to mind with that?
So syncopation, as I recall, is it's the placement of accent in music, where it's like it's an alternating kind of thing. I think it's Halls of Montezuma has syncopation, I think, in it as a song. So like an
It's like when you
alternating.
disrupt the rhythm, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
of music or a rhythm characterized by the displaced beats or accents so that the strong beats are weak and vice versa. So, yeah, I'm a percussionist, or was a percussionist, whatever the hell you want to call it. So syncopation would be like, trying to think of a good example of a song. There's a lot of John Philip Sousa that has a good example of syncopations, like da 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 da. You know, like the accents. Like you sort of have the accents as a way to break up. So like when you're playing a snare, you'd strike it a little harder. So, that is a difficult word to tie into world building.
Let me see if there's anything else. Let's see. Syncopation. I'm gonna go to our
I
friend.
mean, the only thing that I got from it was in terms of that organization that we've been talking about, that sort of like Freemason, you know, a music teacher of mine once told me that like maths and music are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought about maybe not just studying the words. I can't believe we're back at maths, but studying like the
Neil
like
smiling.
the beats and the intonation, and to try and gain meaning from the patterns that are created by the way that the words of the Metaswarm are being said as well. Almost like they're trying to create like music from it, trying to see if it creates a tune, like a something. Because I can imagine that they're full on code breaker style. They're like figuring out they'll all be doing it in a different way, and some people will be like, no, the words are important, and others might be like, no, it's to do with the beats and the way that the pattern sounds. And then once you figure that pattern out, you can create a song, and that song threaded together will be the message that will give us the answer.
Well, what if there was, just as another idea, sticking with the whole music thing, okay? What if there were dust sensitive people who were gifted in music, just like naturally, like they're musicians or instrumentalists or whatever, and because I know he was made some references to the dust speaking to people, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what if for those what they hear is the songs from the memories of the people absorbed into the dust,
Like
Oh.
rhythms.
and then they can use that. They use music to interact with the dust.
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you watch much or if you get it much in America, but the newer Doctor Who, there's
Yeah.
that like whole
Yeah, we
arc
get that
that's
now.
like centered around those 4 drum beats.
Yeah.
That like it's very that like
That was with the
they're like,
master,
oh,
right?
he'll knock 4 times, and they kind of think it's all
Oh
like
yeah,
perfect beats
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
And it's like even in the I'm a bit of a music nerd. In the like, music, that because it's all to do with like, sorry if this is a plot spoiler, but it's very old, so I don't care.
Yeah, go ahead.
At this point, it's over half a decade old. I think the master arc of Doctor Who. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's gonna be upset about that.
It's all to do with like the Master, which is like another Time Lord, and so in the Master's like theme tune, because he's been able to hear these drum beats since he was very young, it's all like the drum beats are kind of interspersed in the music and stuff, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough nerding out about that.
Oh, that's fair, and actually, that does really speak to the idea that the like dust itself is, and I think it's important for us to mention, dust is magic. It's just a different form of it. It's like a fossilized form of magic.
It's a more mundane
So-
form of magic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's in other settings, like in World of Darkness, the term they use when a mage uses magic is that someone's going to leave like crystallized magic behind, and that's called like tallow or tass. And it's the
Lay.
same sort of idea. This is the leftover magical fallout from the apocalypse. It's still magic. It's just sort of a fossilized or a transformed version of magic, but it's still a type of magic. So dust and magic are kind of like 2 halves of the same coin. Tethered call down living magic from the stars. Those who use dust are basically scavenging the fossilized magic of old and using that in a different way. But either way, it's very abstract and not human. And while it's very easy for us to think of like, okay, so I have a vision and I hear voices, who's saying they're speaking? Who's saying they're singing? Who's saying there's anything recognizable at all? You might go into a 13-hour trance and wake up with a weird rhythm in your head, some otherworldly thing that has no words but somehow carries meaning. And it's a very color out of space kind of thing for me.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Neil's
Great
Neil's idea of just like music in the words of the Red Hot Chili Peppers is the great communicator. So so I feel like music as a medium to sort of converse with the dust is such an interesting idea. That is a perfect idea for a short story, and I think it should be called Songs in the Dust.
I'm also thinking that people who can do this, that going back to the other word, which is vicarious, that they are very like free spirits, and they're completely against like being in any way tied down in terms of a lifestyle or a mindset, and they're constantly trying to keep this free and open mind that allows them to create this attunement to an affinity with the song in the dust, compared to going back to her arc Masonic scholars who are trying to look at the music as a mathematical formula. And it's like they're both using the same aspect of the dust in different ways to try to understand it and use it. And you'd have, I don't know, maybe you'd have like some of these masons like, oh, these idiots are just like, they're just a bunch of drunken bards, basically. They don't have a clue what's going on. And then you've got, the drunken bards are like, these idiots, they're ruining the music. They don't understand it, man. They don't get what music's
They're
about.
trying to turn it into a formula.
Yeah, it's like they don't get it, man. They're selling out.
It's literally the old argument of the mathematician and the musician walk into a room. The mathematician says it's a pattern. The musician says it's a beat, and then the guy from the outside says, "Would you two stop arguing about the same freaking thing?" And like, yeah, no, I love that. So much of this is open to interpretation individually, and again, much like that secret society we had, you can have the exact same data in front of you, the exact same stimulus, and approach it entirely differently based on locality. Maybe that's the reason, one of the major reasons why we have the arc is so split up like our prior cult was, is that it's literally just they can't agree on how to interpret it at even its most basic level, even the ones that are the more learned ones. In the
They
same
come
way
across
that
as such like learned like
Yeah.
people, but actually they just can't agree and they have no idea what they're doing.
Well,
Right.
I'm also thinking, because as we keep saying that the dust is very alien, that
Yeah.
different people are trying to understand these alien concepts in different ways. So if you are somebody who is just naturally gifted with magic, or sorry, not magic, with music, you're
Mm.
going to use that to connect to the dust. If
Mhm.
you're a scholar and a mathematician, you will approach it in a scientific fashion. If you're a religious zealot, you're seeing gods and prophets and the likes in the dust. And they're all wrong. And they're all, because they're only seeing a tiny bit of the picture, because that's the only bit of the picture their brain can understand.
Or the dust is
Right.
because it's trying to communicate this message out, is just communicating to them in a way that will connect with their kind of personalities and their
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's actually really great. It's like it's trying.
interest.
Yeah.
Oh, this person has the kind of brain that interprets music and that's how they feel emotion and that's how they communicate with themselves and with other people. So that's how we'll like get the message across.
It's almost like the way a teacher will teach the same thing to 3 or 4 different students in different ways, because
Mhm.
they learn in different ways and understand in different ways. The dust is trying to teach these idiot primates in whatever
Please don't
way
do
they're,
this
they're
apocalypse thing again.
in whatever way they're
Dimensional
stupid.
time-locked
Yeah,
creatures that can't see in eight different spheres of reality.
yeah, exactly. It's like, God damn it! Why didn't they just stay in the trees? It's like,
Right. And that's also like, again, I also like to like drive home that the dust might have an overarching unified like cosmic level mind, but on the individual level it might be very fractured. This is the equivalent of trying to learn someone's, like trying to talk to somebody by interacting with a single neuron. Like, sure, it's part of a bigger whole, and yes, there is a concert of thought there. You are not getting the whole portion of it, and you very well might be getting, in fact, just a misfiring bit of it. Um,
Mm.
and or a part that's just not talking. There's entirely the possibility, because most dust of this mind, I imagine, isn't messing with people's heads all the time, 24/7, 100%, because then no one would have ever started using it. If the first time they dig up this rock from the earth, it immediately starts screaming them in space elvish, and they freak out.
Mm.
But I do like the idea, though, of like when it's utilized properly with the combination of alchemy or even magic. That's when people can start hearing these things. That's when you start getting interpretation. And where the mages might look at dust and be like, oh, this is just the thing that smooths over our use of magic. And this is why all the dust bunnies and their different subcultures are so pivotal, because they're like, no, it is in and of itself 8 times more complicated than you can ever imagine, you dullard Luddite mage, who you don't understand what we're doing to keep you from blowing up a continent with your crazy power. We're messing with things you cannot fathom. And some of us hear music, and some of us see math, and some of us do art, and none of us can agree on it. Sorry, it's not as easy for you guys where you snap your fingers and magically reduce people to atoms. Like, it's not so easy for us. That was a rant.
On that note,
It
I think we
reminds
could.
me of a song by, I don't know if it's pronounced Les Friction or Les Friction, but it's called Your World Will Fail, and like it's very much from like the viewpoint of this like hive mind, like we are like so much like in sync with each other, and you are all too divided and too different, and look at things too differently, and so eventually you will bring about your own destruction. I would definitely recommend looking that song up. It's a really cool one.
I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after all this talk of musicians being free spirits and mathematicians being not, I think we can move on to crystalline, which is I think that's an interesting word because there's a lot of things that could be crystalline. The first very obvious thing I think we're all thinking is dust could take a form of crystalline sort of way, but I challenge us to look beyond that.
Well, I was just thinking, going back to our idea of the void, and as you were saying, in the center of these spaces are the remnants of the old cities. Well, what if the dust had turned those structures crystalline? What if crystals had grown around them, and that's part of what has preserved them? Meaning, so that if you did actually get to them, and you did get through like the 4 or 5 void levels of crazy kaiju, to the city in the center, are you even going to recognize it, or are you going to be thinking, what gods made this wondrous place of crystals?
I was thinking as well, like, because one of my words, actually, I'm cheating a bit by just introducing another one of my words.
No,
but
go ahead.
was currency, and like made me wonder, like, how do these people like trade? Do they have coin? Do they trade in like goods and stuff? So perhaps like some kind of crystalline currency is how they use to kind of live their everyday lives, go down to the shop, buy milk or whatever.
Well, if there is a crystalline component to the void, then what if that's what the crystals is? It's not just some random bit of rose quartz that, oh, this looks pretty, but it's crystals that are either made of dust or you can use to harness dust. So you are creating an inherent value beyond this is shiny, we collect it because it's shiny. It's like it actually has a function beyond
I mean,
the
I hate to say that shiny as a currency doesn't work, but it actually does. Strangely, it's worked well enough for a while. But I feel where you're coming from there.
Yeah. I remember this is going back a long time. In the Dragonlance books, of those of you who have read them, there was. I remember they briefly talk about the currency and that, and you've got your gold, your silver, your platinum. But there's one scene where one of the characters, Flint the dwarf, he like flips a coin to, I think it's a young elf lad for helping him out, and it's made of steel, and it's like this is the most valuable unit of currency in the world of Kryn at that time, because there is a war going on. So steel is actually the most valuable thing, more so than gold or platinum. A steel coin was like, the kid is like, holy like this is, oh my god, like, you know. So like I say, going back to, as you're saying, like a crystalline currency, but we could tie it into the dust in some way.
What I would really like, actually, because we were talking about how the dust might like fuse things together and like mess things up genetically and stuff. Like maybe it does that to like the natural terrain as well. So
Yeah.
it fuses like rocks and trees, for example, and suddenly you have a tree where each of the leaves are just these tiny little like crystalline, and it's all like actually quite pretty and beautiful, a bit like a dreamscape.
Good
You
tie
all
there,
need-
yeah.
You all need to watch. You seriously need to watch Annihilation. Like
That was a
you're
stretch. That was a stretch.
No,
you
no, I
are
think that's
all
good.
like calling to things from that. There's literally a sequence with like crystalline trees growing out, like crystals growing out of the sand on a beach in tree form because of that. Because it literally like
watch this
refracts
film.
that. It's
It
so
sounds so
damn good
pretty.
for its visuals. The
It's
movie
on
itself,
Netflix, isn't it?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
It's
I've
pretty-
seen
Is
the
it?
trailer. For
Yeah,
it.
I
I've
saw it
seen
on
the trailer
Netflix.
for it.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
sad.
remember it's it's got Natalie Portman in it, is it?
Yes, Natalie
Yeah,
Portman
yeah,
and
yeah.
the guy who plays Poe Dameron in it as well as the other lead.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That is
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, in a way, I've been thinking about this as well since we're talking about the idea of like crystalline and dust naturally being crystalline in a way, because that does make sense. Because what is sand but really tiny crystals?
True.
And my thought is this: what if we lean into this as this is the origin of what dust is? It is the fallout of of the apocalypse. But we never really described what that would be. Is that the spell like just vaporizes afterward? What if part of what ended the apocalypse, this semi-magical, semi-science apocalypse, when it struck the areas at ground zero are dust. The dust is what happens, is literally the structures themselves, the little bits and flakes and parts of it that are falling off as it erodes with time. That is one of the primary sources of dust, is what's left of the old world at ground zero of these terrible locales where horrible things happened, and just the little particulate bits that blow off, erode, rust, whatever, that is so still suffused with magic that it's basically the fossilized death blow echo of the last civilization, with all that magic still trapped in those particles. That would also make dust farming very difficult too, because dust might not look the same regionally. It isn't just like a solid material that everyone's like, okay, this is the chemical combination for dust. It's like, well, dust could be particulate sand from the leftover glass in a building that was at ground zero in one place. And in another place, it can be the actual like mushy earth below a plant that was at ground zero. And it's just it's sort of come down from an avalanche of a region or something like that. I think that could be a thing we could lean into. I definitely like the idea of using dust potentially as a currency, but it feels like it's also because it's inherently dangerous. We need to be careful with that because it feels like the equivalent of using plutonium for currency. Yes, it's very valuable, and yes, its utility is obvious, but there are some major health hazards of trading with that as a currency.
Yeah.
Thought
Well-
actually about, and I don't know how well it works with what you've already established as the law. But so I'm gonna go back to Doctor Who again. There was this episode called The Empty Child, where essentially it was this little boy walking around. It was really creepy. He was crying out for his mummy, but he had his face had a
Gas mask.
fused-
Yes. I love
yeah,
that.
Oh,
fused
yeah.
to it. And the whole thing was everything he touched turned into one of these gas masks. So every time he touched a human, they turned into it. And then at the end, all it was he had been in a because it was set during the war. He had been in a bomb explosion, and some alien life form had tried to heal him. It was like an alien tech form of medicine that tried to heal him. He had a gas mask on, and it thought that the gas mask was part of his biology, and so had fused it to his face. And it was only when the child is reunited with its mother and this alien tech realizes, oh, wait, this is actually not what this thing is supposed to look like because these have the same genes. So it then changed it and took the gas mask off.
Which is why it was also transforming everyone else, because it was going, oh wow, there's so many injuries to this
there's so
explosion.
many
Everyone's
broken of
messed
these
up.
creatures
Let
because
me
they would
fix
know
you.
like shared genes, and it made me wonder if like the dust is maybe the apocalypse has like changed all the like created all these hybrid creatures and all of this crazy landscaping and everything, and the dust is very slowly, as well as trying to spread the message through this alien life form of like, this is how we avoid this in the future, is very slowly trying to heal the land. But a
Just
lot
doing
of
it
people,
wrong.
Just twisting
yeah,
it in
and
a
then people
sense.
think, oh, the dust is like dangerous and it's like destroying everything, and we've got to be safe from the dust in here. But actually, it's trying to understand what the land was before and trying to make it better. And
Well, I like this, but also like putting your idea and Omni's idea together about the crystalline trees and the dust farming being really dangerous and dust itself being inherently dangerous. What if those trees were in the areas where the ground zeros of the apocalypse, and the leaves were like the not refined dust, but the refined byproduct, and these trees were growing in these dust-rich areas, and then the farmers are going and harvesting the trees to use as a unit of currency in these really dangerous areas that have this high concentration of dust. Where if you just had pure dust, it's like this stuff is really dangerous. But the leaves from the trees growing in the areas of dust, well, this we can safely handle, but it is still linked to dust, so has a value through that. Maybe there's a resonance in it, or a synchronicity, maybe, I don't know, that dust users can then use this to better harness dust with their tech or with their magic, whatever.
Certainly could be a possibility. I think it's one of those, like, I still like the idea of making sure we're careful not to make too many overarching, like, worldwide systems of things, because again, this is a very fractured world,
Yeah.
and it's very easy for us to think of it, an interconnected world, but that is a really modern concept. And so, like, in a region, I could totally see that being a thing. Um, Maybe even like as a strategic trade resource, like hey, we sent an expedition into that deep void, and we came back with these, and we were able to make really powerful focuses for dust bunnies with these. Like, nulls have really powerful foci with these. We're willing to trade you a box in exchange for like a year's worth of crops, because this will give you a strategic edge against the mages who are knocking down your front door. Stuff like
blowing everything up.
But well, if you have it in different regions as well, like it could be that in one region it's you've got say a leaf that's harvested from a plant, and then in another region it's petals from a flower, and then in another region it's the feathers of a weird hybrid mutant bird.
Yeah.
But they all have
Really
similar
hunting
properties.
dust.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like the little beaks are actually made of crystal. That would be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we-
Oh, I
are
love that. Yeah.
The pterodons with crystal beaks going
No,
full
don't
Yeah.
about
No, what's with the dinosaurs, you people? I mean,
we were talking deep void here, so I mean kaiju.
since
Right?
we're going scientific, I mean, like, are we willing to say that the deeper into the void, the more oxygen there is, therefore the life forms there are bigger?
Or you could even deal
yeah,
with
it's
the
just like a
possibility.
reverse.
Yeah. Or you could even go with like the deeper you go in, mutations could literally mean that animals don't depend on oxygen. Like if we're talking about the possibility of these things refracting life, and possibly life from other worlds, like what would a silicon-based life form breathe? Oh,
Silica
I don't know.
crystals, or
I
those
mean-
silica packet things that you're not supposed to
Yeah.
eat.
Well,
A
you don't
fine
even
snack for all ages.
you don't even need a higher oxygen concentration. It could just be that this organism's got more efficient mitochondria, or this, or like
Yeah.
you don't need to go too technical. It can
Yeah.
just be these things are bigger because science.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Or not
the
science, anti-science again.
True.
Magic here like breaks the laws of physics
Yeah.
objectively. It is not quantifiable with our math and our science. If someone walks up to Tether and is like, "So, how can I determine the wattage of your power?" and it's like, "I don't know. I have no idea. I can kill an entire city with lightning, or I can turn a light bulb on.
Mm.
I just know it's intrinsic."
and I think
I'm really enjoying the fact that we've this episode is basically like Godzilla, like King Kong style. Like, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
No, I do, Omni. I do actually. Though, I love your idea of like, well, regional variations that like there's so much you can play around with that. Of in one region it may be they use a crystal that they refine from a compound, an ore that they get that has dust in it, and then and as Kat said, in another area it's a tree or a plant life or something that they harvest, and then you can tie the crafts that are involved in how you harvest your crystalline currency to the culture in the region,
Yeah.
like without making it too uniform on a macro level.
And honestly, I think the only reason it's probably uniformly called dust everywhere is because the easiest way to refine this stuff out of it is just to burn it. You can burn a tree, you can burn a plant, you can burn an animal hide, you can burn coal, you can burn basically anything.
And it
And
turns to dust.
turns to dust. And that is easy to shuttle everywhere. Everyone will recognize it. They'll be like, yep, that's dust.
I'd also imagine that this substance is like heavily controlled to the extent of like how diamonds and gold are sort of diamonds more so, because diamonds are given this artificial value because of the control that the diamond market has over them, and they make them forcibly scarce. I wonder if there's people like the Ark that sort of convey the idea that dust is a very scarce resource in that particular area, to the extent that just like people are willing to pay more for it, so the economy gets higher and higher off of dust.
Conversely, dust is this really, really dangerous thing that exists in the world, and there's only a small number of people who can safely harvest it so that it can be used in a safe fashion. So you're not controlling it by saying there's a scarcity, but you're controlling it through your knowledge of how to safely harvest it to use.
That's true, yeah. That is a fair point, and that would also create... Every single stream we've created new economies. I think we're just like...
Well, no, this isn't even an economy. This is just like a guild or something within your, it's just like this is your coin makers guild, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like or whatever. It's like it doesn't have to.
It kind of makes me feel like it's if you want to get a car, everyone thinks, oh, okay, so you go to the automotive maker. You're like, no, you have to go before that. Okay, you go to the refinery where you get the metal from. No, you go before that. Okay, you go to the folks where they process the iron. No, you go even further. You go to the mine. No, you go further than that. You find the people who hire the miners, and that's where you get your car from. You get your car from the people who hire the miners, who then go into the mines to dig up the iron, then gets refined, and then gets sent out to another place where it's processed even more further, and then you get to the car maker. And there's still like 8 steps I'm missing in that, because of course I am.
That's exactly what the Industrial Revolution was, and it introduced, because like I've actually done a lot of research on Victorian era England, especially like early Victorian era England. See, at the time you would have the bread maker be the person that harvests the wheat, makes it into flour, and then makes the bread. That was all one person. And then when the Industrial Revolution came about, you had a farmer, you had the miller, and then you had the bread maker. And along the line, things kept getting modified just a little bit. And that is why they started putting chemicals like plaster of Paris in bread, because they wanted it to be white. But like along the line, they cared less and less about the consumer. And we're the pinnacle of that, obviously. But I just think that's an interesting thing, because in this post-apocalyptic world, most things would be like Omni was saying. Let's use something a little less complicated than a car, a gun. So you'd have a miner gather the metal, and then they would cast it into a weapon, and then they would sell that. So they would do everything, right? So they'd be getting paid like buku bucks, and they don't have that Industrial Revolution idea that we had. It's just like, what if we had different people do different processes, limit the amount of money that we give them, maximize profit margins? They don't have that in this anymore.
And then on top of that, you've got your guilds and how they will control certain sectors within a society as well. So you like in that you have your baker's guild to make sure some mother chop doesn't just come rocking in and decide he's going to start selling bread as well. But also, that was what, like, one of the functions of like pre-industrial medieval era. One of the functions of a guild was quality control,
Yeah.
Like back in the time of the guilds, they actually did care about the consumer, because it was
Yeah.
like, if this guy is, putting ground up pieces of, I don't know, limestone or whatever into his flour, well, then no one's going to buy the bread from us. But, it also then is going back into our idea of, well, if it's a post apocalyptic world, most people are just literally trying to survive to get by. So most people, you're a farmer or you have some sort of a simple trade that allows you to live and support your family. You don't have that industrial complex in place to provide all the other things that you need. You have to keep things simple. So if you've got a process whereby we need to make this thing by refining this thing, you're going to have a group of people who specialize in that, because you're going to need one person who knows what they're doing to do it all, because there's not going to be 4 or 5 other people to create the supply chain, And even if you wanted to, those other 4 or 5 people are busy farming and not letting their family die of starvation.
Right.
Thus, we create guilds.
Yes.
And
I
that
definitely think that's a thing. for
and
sure.
and yeah, that makes sense because the guilds are a very big thing in fantasy for that exact reason. We still have them in modern society, but they're significantly less relevant. We don't call them guilds anymore. We call them like local butcher would be an example of a
Or a
guild.
trade union.
Trade union, yeah, that's a great example of a guild. We
Mm.
just don't have them as much anymore because everything's like corporate and capitalized and inauthentic. Back in those times, you had people putting a lot more care into the things that they made because they knew that they would be the only person that anybody could get them from, but they didn't exploit people for that. They gave people
But
what they
also-
wanted.
It was a different kind of exploitation and
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
was more sustainable for the fact that you're going to be giving what you're making right now to your kids and not selling it on the NASDAQ at a loss.
Yeah.
So,
Also, because you're the only person that we can get this from, if there's a problem with it, you're the one we're going to go after.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there was way more accountability.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. Like, one of the things that a lot of people forget about the reason why unions exist isn't unions don't exist just to benefit the worker. They actually benefit the owner because historically, I can at least speak for US history. In the US, before you had major union spreads, what would happen in a town that was built around an industry is the industry would squeeze the town for money until it began to literally bleed. The town would rise up and you would have overseers and owners dragged into the streets and killed. And then they'd either have to have another company come in and buy the holdings and start the whole process again, or they'd send another representative. None of that's really good for anybody involved. The workers get prosecuted for murder and lose their primary means of survival, and the boss gets literally knifed in the streets. So yeah, that's why unions and guilds exist, because you need to have a method of negotiation between labor and ownership. If labor does not own ownership, I will put away my comrade hat before it grows too big.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of music just about that sort of thing. About like, yeah, you exploit the land for its resources until it's all dried up, and then what do the workers do when there's literally nothing left? Allentown by Billy Joel. That's a really good song. I highly recommend listening to. It's about the chromium miners and stuff like that. And as we know now, chromium is an incredibly dangerous material and gave a lot of people cancer. Yeah. Oh man, I love exploiting human life to make some pennies. Oof, makes sense.
In a setting.
In setting, yeah, it's in the world. That's not a. There's no real world equivalence of that. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
no, not at all. Banish the thought.
Amazon workers in Michigan specifically.
So we're happy enough with this idea of crystalline being associated with currency and a link to the dust, yeah?
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely like that.
Let's talk weather.
Yes. The thing we're all here for. Let's bust out the weather.
Oh, acid rain.
Well, no, this is one thing I wanted to know. In the setting of the world, I mean, obviously, you need to, as a designer, you need to have a limit on how big your world is. And if we say it's
Right.
Earth, Earth
Right.
has a wide range of biomes, ecosystems, climate systems, and all the rest of that, which is like, you're not going to have all of Earth.
Right.
Have we got an idea of 1, 2, 3 different biomes or geographically equivalent regions that the setting is going to be based in?
So we talked about, I mean, with civilization comes water, so you're going to have a lot of like probably coastal civilizations, but those coastal civilizations would be fit into the biomes that we were suggesting. So what we've sort of gone around is that there's going to be like some sort of nuclear winter-esque biome, be it a taiga, a desert, or a frozen desert, that sort of thing. Probably a really hot area, and probably like a moderately warm area, which would probably be where civilization sort of like sits between these verdant cities and stuff like that. So I think those would be the three: extremely cold, extremely hot, and pretty
Temperate.
moderate.
Yep.
What's that?
A temperate region.
Yeah, a temperate region.
Yeah.
Yes, that's that.
My mind literally
Right.
goes to for anyone out there who's played the game, Horizon Zero Dawn, which is fantastic. If you haven't played it, recommend it. And in it, it has massive sprawl of biomes, but it's actually a really small, like just snippet of their world. That's not even close to the whole thing. It's just a chunk of it. But the part of it is a large temperate zone, a dry desertified zone, and then above it is like a more alpine, wintry kind of region. And I think maybe just have like a chunk of it on the coast so we can get some water in there.
Oh, no.
So a little bit of
Got really
everything,
intrigued
just
by these
close enough
sea
to interact with.
monsters that we were gonna like the idea of like a coastal one as well, like by the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's going to be
You
like
have
different.
some crazy weather conditions happening out there.
Some people like endlessly in the stream chat. They're like, "What about a dust storm?" Like.
Of course,
Just
that's
So
yeah,
let's
that's what I'm
talk
saying.
about the implications of a dust storm.
literal death tornado.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for you folks over in Europe, have you seen a dust storm in Kansas? Have you ever seen one of those? They are
Dust Devil. Yeah.
terrifying. I'll pull one up. Omni, you could send them a picture. There's one that just from a couple of weeks ago. So Kansas, here in the United States, we're known for exploiting resources until we screw everything over. So in Kansas during the Great Depression, which is inevitably what led to the Dust Bowl, we were harvesting topsoil and we were selling topsoil to people and farmers because they weren't
What?
being able. Yeah, they were literally taking soil, the topsoil from Kansas, taking it up and selling it to farmers. So when you take the topsoil out of the ground, all you have is the loose soil. Hence the Dust Bowl, which happened in the 1920s, 1930s. He looks so bad.
Why did you do that?
It's Midwestern
End-stage
America.
capitalism? I don't know.
So it wasn't a form of in-stage capitalism, and it got worse. So what ended up happening was there was so much static electricity because there was no grass or moisture on the ground from dew to sort of keep things in check. So we'd have there would be lightning storms running along the ground, like arcs of lightning rolling across the ground. It's called rolling lightning in Kansas. It still happens sometimes. Kansas is just so incredibly flat. Like you think of I live in the Ozarks area of Missouri, so it's really hellacious and mountainy, and a lot of lakes, a lot of just varying terrain. My house is literally on like a 45-50 degree incline, and in Kansas, everything's flat. You could drive for miles and miles, everything's flat. So, like I said, during the Dust Bowl, they took all the topsoil from the ground, like some Lorax shit, and and when the wind started coming and the tornadoes started coming, there would be dust storms like Pompeii type stuff. Like literally, the skies would be clouded out or blotted out by dirt, like by just loose packing soil, and that still
There's
happens.
actually reports of like the skies being brown.
Yeah.
With like just how dense that uplifted dirt was. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, and Nevada, just like anywhere west of Kansas too, starting at literally about Missouri to the west, there's a lot of dust storms and stuff like that. Not in Nevada, it's more from deserts and stuff like that. So you can
Yeah.
expect a dust storm in a desert. But in Kansas,
Yeah.
Kansas is
It's not-
soil. Kansas
so-
is like a temperate climate. It's usually about 50 to 60 degrees to 70 degrees year round Fahrenheit. And they literally just created an actual like
Weather
apocalyptic type of weather event. Yeah.
pattern. Now, that said, most dust devils are actually not powerful enough to do too much more than lift the topsoil up, or like the dust. that upper layer of loose soil.
And the
So,
Dust
like,
Bowl, it was very different though.
yeah, that was actually just like a tornado by another
It was a
name,
nightmare
or,
for like a decade.
a tsunami of soil carried in air, not water. Whereas,
Soil tsunami.
yeah,
Soil
whereas
tsunami.
like
Uh,
most dust devils, you even see these occasionally here, like on baseball fields, because technically it can happen anywhere. You have a low pressure and a high pressure system meeting, which creates a little bit of suction or wind.
Yeah.
And if there's just nothing but loose, dusty soil, then it gets pulled up. So, like, a lot of baseball diamonds, especially in like playgrounds, occasionally you might actually just see like a little tiny dust devil, and it'll just sort of like pop on through and float by, and it won't bother anybody because it doesn't have more than it only has enough suction to literally lift particles of dirt.
Yeah,
But-
they're like small tornadoes. Very
But there's
tiny
no real way
tornadoes.
to gauge when that little one's going to go from like, oh, it's cute, to this is a trench now
You
behind.
know what? I saw one of those once. It was my first ever time seeing anything that even closely resembled a tornado. And it was just across. I don't know if just the way that the buildings were might have just directed the wind in some way, but just what it was while I was at school a very
Yeah,
long time ago, and I
Uh,
can just remember looking out the window, and there was like this. It was very small, and it was just literally like loose dust and soil from like just kind of it went across the field and then puffed out, and that was it.
yeah,
That was a dust, probably.
right. So,
I love the idea of the rolling lightning, though, like the rolling.
yeah, I
thunder
was just gonna
lightning.
say
That's
that.
really cool, dangerous, and a bit different kind of weather that could definitely.
ground
exist.
lightning was as dangerous as it sounded, by the way. Like,
It
there-
sounds dangerous.
there'd be arcs of lightning literally running along the ground. It was terrifying. It still sometimes happens in Kansas, but not to the extent it did in the 20s, 30s.
It is still pretty common to see lightning like sprint across an entire sky or clouds. That'll happen here in Florida,
Yeah.
where we'll have enough static electrical build in the clouds where you don't get lighting that even touches ground. There's just a powerful enough static current, or even other clouds consider other clouds equivalent grounding.
Yeah.
And
Sheet
so-
lightning.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll just watch the sky light up entirely. It'll be like someone put a net of lightning over the sky. Really concerning when you're under it and you're not in a building. Really cool in a building. I mean, I actually found something else out pretty terrifying too about like how extreme lightning can get. Apparently, in the upper atmosphere, there's what they refer to as gamma lightning, and you can usually tell it's gamma lightning because it's purple or like fuchsia colored by its intensity. And apparently, the electrical current is so extreme that it creates microbursts of gamma radiation. Normally, this only happens in the uppermost layers of the atmosphere, away from us, and largely outward towards space. But if things get really bad, with the potential for climate change causing upper atmospheric phenomena to perhaps come lower, you could have gamma lightning lower to Earth, and if it ever makes contact with Earth, you could have effectively just a like 30-meter pulse of just everything dies.
That's all we need.
We
Yeah.
we need gamma lightning in this world.
So,
Mhm.
we said that there was regions where, like, they were like barren wastelands that were infused with dust because of the apocalypse. Yeah.
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 So I suppose these are the obvious places to have our dust storms.
Yeah. It just
Only it wouldn't be ball lightning; it would be maybe balls of pure magic.
I could see that. Transmuting storms or like
Enough of these, like
storms.
enough dust devils get like powerful enough, and enough dust comes together, maybe it like just collides and creates like a mini gamma type shot.
Yeah,
of magic.
That's
I'm
terrifying.
thinking like pure raw arcane energy, but like if you wanted to play with it a different way, you could. And what if like so the dust bunnies? I get confused between the dust bunnies and the gnolls. Which is the one that can? Which is the one that draws on the magic from dust?
So they both do.
Well,
Okay, that
yes,
was what was confusing me.
dust bunnies to a lesser extent. Gnolls are more specialized in that regard.
Yeah. A
So you-
null is a specialized, more powerful version of a dust bunny, basically.
So could you have towns that have built up in areas that have these dust storms, and they have gnolls who try to protect them from the the arcane lightning, that they can draw it in so it doesn't hit the town and wipe everybody out.
We'll call them eyes.
Yeah.
Well, I love Artemis's idea in the chat
Hmm.
of like pirate type figures that go out and try to
Pirate of the Road.
yeah
Do some Castlevania.
like try to do something in these really dangerous conditions. Maybe they have like a dust bunny or a knoll that's like trying to, I guess, attract the arcane energy to themselves, so it doesn't.
What if they?
Like the...
What if they could capture it? What if they could capture the energy and store it to use or sell or whatever?
That would be a very invaluable resource. Like you couldn't even put a price tag on that, because like even in they've done studies. If we were to harness the power from a bolt of lightning, you could power New York City for 7 days. Like, so
which comparatively, I'm pretty sure you could power the rest of the country outside of major cities for that amount of power for the same length of time.
So maybe these people
or
risk
one
their
Amazon data
lives
center
to try and go out during these really dangerous storms, knowing that they could possibly be completely obliterated, with the hope that the knoll that they bring with them will be able to harness it and they can capture it in some way and sell it for a buttload of money.
So they're like storm chasers in the literal sense. That they're literally like hunters.
Yeah.
They're like storm hunters.
They are actually hunting it. They're hunting these dust storms to harness the energy.
Everyone's a survivalist in this kind of world, right? And they're trying to find their way of making, like, of surviving, and this is their way of doing it.
I think that's definitely a thing we could have, like, be a regional pursuit. Like, definitely, I think too specialized and too powerful, or really
this is
for everyone to do it. But like, one group or like one city-state has a claim to fame. Like, we have caged magic. That's our shit. And
I love the idea that they are, like, call them storm pirates. That they are these groups of nut job possible criminals who are doing this really dangerous stuff. That it is very much, no, most normal people don't do this, because most normal people aren't going to chase a dust storm because they don't want to die. So storm pirates, I like the idea of, or dust pirates, because they are these very small groups of really crazy people who are probably drunk a lot of the time as well. But yeah, we could all die, but we will be rich and enjoy a life of decadence until we die.
That is so goddamn cool. I just imagine, like, you guys ever see that meme of the guy that walks outside with like a shovel? He's like, "Strike me down, Zeus. You don't have the balls," and then it immediately strikes him and the video ends. That's what these guys are. They're just like drunken, mad, crazy people that literally try to steal the power of the cosmos to like power communities. That sounds like a perfect like short story, like movie setting too. You just have this entire like dust-stricken situation going on.
Criminals, they like hold it over the community, so they use it to like
a nuke.
Take over towns. They're like, we have this powerful arcane energy, and we're gonna like power, and we're gonna basically run the place, and they become like.
So they're just warlords. They're warlords and criminals.
Yeah.
Why don't we call them storm cagers?
I like storm pirates though. The idea of them like roaming around and like terrorizing people.
That is true.
Like, actual lightning is terrifying.
that actually is really powerful. I love the idea of that though. Like, we don't need to have a subsistence economy or survival method. Our survival method is walking into town with the magical equivalent of a grenade belt strapped to our chest and demanding everyone give us your shit, or turning your town into a distant memory.
It's extortion, but with extra steps.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to think of.
And I imagine that these groups will be like few and far between, because like everyone knows, dust is really crazy. Like, this could kill you. Everyone is scared of it and is scared of magic. There's not many like sane people, I guess, that would really like go out and chase it in that way.
This seems like our Mad Max region. Is what the
Yeah.
vibe I'm sort of getting.
Can we just agree to put this in the desertified zone? Because this
Yeah.
really does feel like it should straight
Oh,
up
yeah.
be like
Straight up.
Mad
Yeah.
Max, just point for point.
It would.
Wonderful.
Well, what if it was in a frozen desert? Because during the wintertime, things tend to get more staticky. So it kind of makes sense if there is more lightning in the cold area than.
And if it's higher up in altitude, that brings it closer to the stars, and that's where living magic is. That could even be the genesis of these storms: is living magic from the stars sort of intrudes far enough to interact with dust on the ground, and
Neil.
The Northern Lights.
yeah,
Ah, yeah.
When you have an aurora borealis over certain regions, you will be guaranteed that it will form a dust storm.
Oh, so it's like
Yeah,
it's like
that's
a
like
Saint
the-
Elmo's fire sort of
Like the
thing.
towns that kind of live in this region, if they start to see these beautiful northern lights in the sky, they're like, "Oh, there's a storm
Shit.
coming."
Yeah,
Get in
exactly.
the shelters.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And people that aren't from that are like, "Wow, that's pretty." It's just like, get inside now.
no
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's oh
Because
man.
you're tying it directly in with, as you say, that magic comes from the stars, you know. So it's like that perfect bridge between the stars and the earth, you know.
We actually have a. We were talking about. We were talking about like astronomers and why they're so important. Probably one of the main reasons they can predict dust storms and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's. I'm trying to think of the word for. Man, I'm a writer, I swear. I can't think of the word. Not harbinger.
I'll be right back, guys. Something's coming up. 1 minute, I'll be back.
Oh, you're
It's
good.
there. Prophet, diviner, oracle.
No, I'm trying. God damn it! I can't think of the word. It's like
Day.
harbinger.
Describe like the definition of what you're trying to think.
It's like a. What man? Talk about a brain fart. It's like a.
This is gonna be the last 15 minutes of this stream. Just us going, what's this word?
No, it's like a sign of something to come. Why can't I think of that word? It's like
Omen.
omen. Thank you. God damn it.
Oh, yeah.
Maths teacher. I'm not even an English teacher, man. I mean, come on.
I couldn't think. I'm glad I didn't go for an English major. Damn. Oh lord.
That's what 3 coffees does to you.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I usually don't drink this much coffee. Somehow coffee's made me drowsy. A strange it's like a strange omen, an ill omen, seeing these things, and it's like a harbinger of a storm.
Yeah,
Um,
like
on a completely separate aside, just because you're talking about omens, I just think this could be a side note, a comment, an insert that you might want to put in. You could possibly use or not, but you know, I can't remember the proper term for it. But the form of divination whereby you used to take an animal and you would cut them open and examine their entrails.
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of it. But what if you had people who would specifically be looking to do this using the entrails of animals that had been killed in dust storms?
Oh, I know what you're
idea
talking
that-
about.
You know, like literally, it's like, oh, this bird or this whatever was struck by, you know, dust lightning, you know, and they are like super good animal to use for this form of divination. Or but this is the thing, is it could be real or it could be complete bullshit. But you know, people believe it because of superstition, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because like superstition's definitely going to be something people cling
Yeah.
to in a post-apocalyptic world, early civilization, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I said, like, when I originally thought of the word stories, my thinking was like, for most, in any culture, what underpins the values of that culture is the stories they tell, and how they depict their world and the things that they can't explain or that they don't have knowledge about, which obviously dust is a really big part of that. They know how certain individuals and things can react with the dust, like the tethered and dust bunnies and things like that, but they don't really understand what it is, and everyone has different kind of stories and theories, and like it regionally, again, those things could be different.
Yeah.
So I think just like things like that's kind of where I was going with, like, oh, you could have like people that believe it to be spiritual, and some will maybe think of it as like a religious thing. Some, and it's kind of, yeah, it just, that kind of concept interests me.
Yeah.
Well, when I was thinking of the word dreamscape, I was thinking of the idea of that. Well, what if you had people who the dust speaks to them in their sleep, and they're like reliving or remembering past lives or experiences of people who lived on other worlds, but because they're seeing these alien worlds, their brains have to twist it, so they'll understand it. So what they think is this crazy messed up dream is their brain reinterpreting a scene from a completely different world, and that what they're experiencing isn't a dream, but they're like reliving the memory of somebody who was subsumed into the dust, but like from a completely different world.
So they're sort of piercing a certain veil, like just to like
Yeah, exactly.
looking
Yeah.
beyond what they know, and it's
Mm.
probably, you know, this is a bit tangential, so stop me if I go too deep into this. That's actually how they believe that religions were first sort of like founded in societies. They would take some sort of intoxicant, like there's history of humans eating marijuana plants as far back as like 30 to 40,000 years, and they would believe that the things that they saw, while marijuana doesn't really cause you to hallucinate, but like you know, they would take these intoxicants and they would see these things, and they would believe that they were seeing some sort of divine figure that's trying to send them a message or give them something, anything at all. And
Just went,
yeah, but you know, these it'd be in a very similar idea. These people probably use dust as the way to pierce the veil, as it were, to see the realms of the gods and that sort of thing. And maybe they don't even have such thing as a god. Maybe they just see this place as some sort of heaven or place that can be like not reached by mortal minds. Also,
You could
I'm sorry.
you
Go
could
ahead.
even you could even like on a regional level look at like from person to person. Like one person has these dreams and everybody thinks, oh, they're just nuts, you know. Another person has these dreams and in their culture, like this person is an oracle, you know. And then
Yeah,
another person has these dreams and it's like, okay, you're gonna come into the convent now and we're gonna teach you all of the words from this religious, you know. It's like in different cultures, the way people are treated and the way that people themselves will react to what's happening will change because they're trying to process what the hell's going on here with these crazy dreams
yeah,
that are actually memories,
yeah, and you
but
know,
not their own memory.
yeah, and real quick before I forget, Kung Fu Sock, thank you for the follow. I did not miss you, I promise. Uh, there is a real world equivalent to that. It's just like how cultures, you were saying that cultures would have like different interpretations. So one culture could see, oh, this person's a prophet. They need to be sort of like listened to, and another person be like, okay, you probably just need to take a few more crazy pills because like you're nuts. You're having all these visions and you're saying that they're true and they're prophetic. Bleh. Real world equivalent to that would be Christ himself. How people, so a lot of people followed him and his teachings, but the Romans saw his teachings as you know, heretical towards Judaism. And then the same thing would happen with the Prophet Muhammad. You know, a lot of people, he was literally stoned for his teachings and what he was trying to spread it, because but both of them claimed to be have spoken to God, and Christ claimed to be the Son of God. So obviously those things didn't go very well for both of them. But
Turns
without
out grand heresy or apostasy doesn't usually fly really well in an Orthodox society.
yeah, so you'd
But then
probably have that.
when you look at other cultures, like I only know the tiniest bit about it, but in indigenous Aboriginal culture in Australia, dreaming and the dream world is a huge part of the culture, and the
Yeah,
idea that like even like parents would dream their child into existence, you know, when they're expecting and all that. So like this idea of dream being a huge part of your religion and spirituality in a non let's burn them and stone them and you know crucify them kind of way, you
yeah,
know. So you got a lovely, you've got a like, I'm just thinking of it and I'm going to use the dragon game analogy of like options here for a backstory for a cleric type character or a sorcerer type character, you know,
mm,
or whatever, of like depending on what way you want to swing the backstory to fit into your idea for your character, you know. Something like this, you know, although we have kind of gone off the topic of weather and that, but but you know, it still does it could tie in nicely, you know, giving you more
yeah.
as a player, giving you more scope for more choice on how you want to tie your backstory into the general kind of cultural lore of the world.
Yeah, and weather itself is like incredibly tied to religion. I mean, look at the Great Flood that God brought about, and then he warned Noah of it. There'd probably be a lot of shit like that in this, where these prophets would be getting these visions of like this horrible event that would be to come, which would be something like a great dust storm, and so they would be the ones that people would see them as a prophet or like as they like a protector, or a harbinger, even sort of like trying to ease them into the end if it is an end, and that might have happened
Because
in the old world, you know?
they are seeing the past,
Right.
but everyone thinks they are seeing the future.
Yeah, they're seeing the past of maybe civilizations that have fallen. That sort of thing. They're seeing past that they can't quite interpret because everything is so abstract from what they know, and it would probably be overwhelming to the point where it would cause some sort of mental scarring or ease of, if we wanted to use sanity at some point, like in Call of Cthulhu, just sort of like losing touch with the material world and exploring something that was far beyond what your normal human mind can comprehend.
What if instead of insanity you had something more like id points, and if you lost enough id, you could be subsumed into the dust?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I'll pen that down. I'll put that under prompts, just as like a side note.
Also, Red, don't forget, could you do me a favor and check your Discord for me, Chief?
Check Discord. Yeah,
Thank
let
you,
me
I appreciate it.
pull that up real quick. But I think we covered all the prompts and even the prompts that we gave ourselves. So yeah, we're gonna. I think this is a good ending point for the stream. So is the show running early today? Yes. This is not a rerun. I'm talking to you live. We started early today for our folks in Europe. But we will be ending the stream right now. Omni, if you need to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll continue.
I appreciate it, man. First off, everyone, I am the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American. I've been working on my tabletop role-playing game Legacy, Storytelling in the World of Tomorrow, for 15 plus years. And I am currently cranking out a demo for it and hope to have it very shortly for you all in the new year, maybe even by the end of the new year. Don't hold me to that. I'm already under the knife for a lot of different things. I've got a gun to my head on like 8 different things. But I also had the pleasure of playing on DM Studios campaigns and the genuine, true honor of being the co-host here on this lovely channel with these lovely folks, both here for the writer's block and Chip Off the Block on Wednesdays. It's been a genuine pleasure, you two. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for all these incredible ideas you brought to this world. And I'm gonna peace out, guys. Have a good day.
I'll see you, man.
Bye.
Oh, there he goes.
Put the cover up.
Okay. That's gonna mess up the cameras a little bit, but that's okay. I can fix those real quick. Let's see here. Sorry, folks. Something came up with Omni. I will not say, because for his privacy's sake. Fixing the cams.
Play some like elevator hold music.
No, I'm actually almost done fixing the camera, surprisingly enough. Let's see here. Neil, your camera's up, so you want to do a little outro for yourself, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself again.
Okay. All right. I'm Neil. I am the creator and designer of Earth. It's an indie TTRPG set in an alternate 19th century Earth where every creature from folklore and fairy tale is real. They've always been real and lived alongside humanity. So it's alternate history, alternate timeline. It's an industrial era where there's magitech involved as well. The big thing about our game, and the main reason why I didn't make it a 5e supplement, is that the creatures in my setting are as accurately as I can portrayed in the way they were in folklore. So you will see kobolds, you will see goblins, you will see brownies, you will see elves, and they will be nothing at all like what you're used to because they are based on how they appeared in actual folklore, which generally means that they're really terrifyingly powerful and a single fairy could TPK a party of under level 5. But fairies were scary, man. They were not cute. Tinkerbell would have like taken out most parties.
Scary fairy.
So that's me. You can find me on Twitter at Fayard. I'm also on TikTok, though I haven't put anything up there in a while, at Fay_Earth, and on Itch.io. You can find us there where we have our lore primer, our starter set. We're gonna hopefully have a pay what you want one shot up soon, very soon. And please God, next year, if we all survive 2022, I'll have launched a Kickstarter as well.
I'm very excited for that, man, and I'm definitely gonna be keeping up with you. I'm gonna definitely start posting you guys' Twitter handles in the chat. There we go. If you wanna check out Neil and his work is really really cool, and I'm a little biased too because my significant other's working on it. I did
She
art
did
for it.
an amazing piece of art for our Banshee, which is a nice example of how it's different in that she looks very much like they appear in Irish folklore and nothing like what you'll see in a Monsters manual.
Oh god, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Just even just to see her art in a book is just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
But like I said, folks, if you want to keep up with Neil's project, definitely check out @FayEarth on Twitter. It's definitely worth it. Kat, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What you're working on?
I run a blog. Very, Neil and my work is kind of very similar.
Mhm.
Neil has created an entire world, an entire system based around real life examples of folklore, and I try and take the real life examples of folklore and cram them in to 5e stat blocks. So I write a lot of articles about world building and lore building. And I do Monster Mondays every month. Every Monday. Even every single monster there is, I will write about them. I give a little bit of insight into different monsters and creatures and legendary figures of folklore, and then I try to find stat blocks that exist that might kind of be interesting variants or takes on those creatures. And give a few plot hooks to kind of insert them into your adventure too. My website is thelawmistress.co.uk if you want to go check it out. I do also review TTRPGs, indie ones, because I think that's cool and important.
Yeah.
And then my Twitter handle and my Instagram handle is @lawmistress93.
Absolutely, and Kat, I love your work.
Burnt Corn is just saying a new scroll just came in because that's my email prompt every single time I post a new blog post.
I
There's
like
a little
that.
email and it's like, apprentice, a new scroll just came in. So, yeah. I'm blushing now, so I'm just gonna end it. That's me. Hey, thanks everyone.
And thank you both so much for taking time out of your probably incredibly busy schedules to be on my humble little show. I really appreciate the thoughts and ideas that you've had. It's such an experience having different guests on every week, and you two have been absolutely wonderful. So like I said, I can't thank you enough for providing your creative license. Mental creative license to give us some content for the show, and wow, I tell you, I know I shouldn't be, but I'm just genuinely surprised at the end of every session when I'm reviewing the notes and I see all of this brand new stuff that I would have never thought of in a million years, even if I was tripping on dust like some of the people in our in this world are. But again, like I said, this show would be nothing without my lovely guests, Neil and Kat. So thank you two so very much, and I would.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for adapting your stream time for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, that's no
because
problem. I'm happy to do
Just
that.
to give you all some insight into this 9 p.m. here where Neil and I are. So this is a bit of a different time for everyone else, but yeah.
Yeah, no worries at all, and I'd be happy to do it again in the future. I know there are a lot of creators in our community that are from the UK and Europe and even Asia and stuff like that. So I live in a really weird time zone. You guys are 6 hours ahead of me, so I'm just like, okay, I don't want you guys to have to be on it. What would it be normal stream time for you? 2 in the morning?
2 o'clock in the morning, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, to be honest, I have to be up at 4 anyway tomorrow.
No.
I wouldn't want you to be up that
next
early.
time we'll just coincide it with one of those shifts, and I'll just get up a couple of hours earlier, have my tea and breakfast, and be like, "Hey guys,
Nah, I wouldn't want
work
to.
in 2 hours, so we actually need to be on time this time."
I wouldn't want to cut into you guys' schedules like that, of course. But Yeah, I don't mind. Well, what's nice is I can just take two people from Europe and put them in the same stream. Like that makes things so easy. Uh,
Yeah.
and same thing with the United States. Obviously, the United States has 4 time zones, so it's a little difficult to line things up because Omni's an hour ahead of me. Some of my guests have been an hour or two behind me. Let me tell you, I found out very quickly that I am not good with time. Uh, but thank you again, folks, for joining us on the stream. Writer's Block is live every single Thursday with brand new guests at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, usually. That is, I'm getting an ad on an ad-free video. Let me just turn the music off. Lovely. Sorry about that, folks. But like I said, we are live every single Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Would that be 2 a.m. GMT?
I think it is. Yeah. I think it's
Uh,
2
Yeah.
a.m. Yeah.
So,
We're
if you're
6 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you stay up late in the European area, UK area, please stop by.
If I appear, it's because my 2-year-old has decided to wake me up.
That's
Yeah.
fair. But also, I know the two of you probably been watching the VODs, so again, I appreciate you guys.
Yes.
Just I appreciate. I can't tell you how flabbergasted and how like flattered I am that you guys went and watched the VODs. Like I can't expect that out of people, but the fact that you took time to do that is heartwarming to me. Thank you very much.
How else would I have learnt about the tiny secret locomotive?
Somebody clipped that, and thank you whoever did that. I think that was Bond.
I'm gonna just keep mentioning it because it's probably one of my favorite clips. It's just like
It's going on a T-shirt.
locomotive.
It's going on a T-shirt. It has to at this point.
It has to. I'll buy the
Thanks.
t-shirt.
I'll have Hal do the art for it. But this has been a Midwestern goodbye. A Midwestern goodbye is when you say bye and then have a 30-minute conversation, say bye again, and then have another 30-minute conversation. Happens all the time. But again, folks, thank you. I will be live later this evening at the normal time, 8 p.m. CST, but I'll be doing that'll be for the affiliate stream. Which I'll just be doing an AMA and Halo Infinite. Granted, everything streams correctly. That'll have Omni on if everything goes well, and also Derek or DMDM Studios. So again, folks, thank you very much. If you want to message me about anything when it comes to Writer's Block, anything at all, I'm on Twitter at VA Redemption. I'm also on Discord. Some of you have me on Discord. If you don't, no big deal. Just message me through Twitter. You'll have an easier time reaching me through Discord or email. But yeah, if you have any questions about Writer's Block or anything like that, maybe you want to be on the show. Don't be afraid to message me. I know we've had some people that told me that they claim to be shy, but they're excellent talkers. We haven't had a single guest so far that's been awkward as they claim to be. They've all been excellent talkers, and again, Artemis said I will message you. I know you're gonna remind me about the dinosaur emote too, I'm sure. But again, folks, thank you very much for coming to the stream, and have a good afternoon or have a good evening, depending on where you are. And thank you again. Bye.